What's up, everybody? This is Carrick with ACG, and I'm here with Johnny for the Best Gaming Live Podcast, whatever the fuck it's called. 491, right? I think we're 491.
Indeed.
Yeah. Even in my title, I just said blah, 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 because it's such a blah week. I don't know. It's like almost didn't even want to do a podcast. There was so little to cover other than...
We had some trailers, like some stuff in the state of play, but not a ton. Yeah.
Not a ton. It was pretty
light.
Pretty light. Yeah. It was one of those times where when I was watching, I was a little bit depressed that there was really nothing, nothing like eye-catching. I mean, I guess we should have prepared for that, right? We should know at some point that they can't continue to release big games.
Yeah.
At some point, you're just going to get that situation where have a little bit of a diminishing return.
It's going to dry up, and then they need to make some other stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to just witness the same 80,000 blowjob thumbnails and talk about Ubisoft for like 9 hours, we can do that. But it's at this point, it is so masturbatory. Like, it's becoming like...
There has been such a big, hot takes thing in YouTube about, Ubisoft is over. So many of these big streamers, where do you stand on that? What do you think we should take away from that situation?
That business happens and it changes all the time, and there's nothing surprising about it. The fuck? It's business. It's going to happen. What pisses me off more about this entire situation is the same stuff we saw before, where there were a bunch of cowardly people out there not reporting on Insomniac's leaks because they were like, we shouldn't do this, but they report on everybody else's leaks. All of the tit for tat that you supposedly see in YouTube and the supposed fairness. It's like, if we're going to report on this, we need to report on other stuff. And the number of times I've heard people be like, well, we're not going to report on this leak from this company because, it's just like, dude, either report or shut the fuck up. Do not consider yourself, I don't care if you're a YouTube channel that does podcasts every day, you do whatever. If you're going to report, if you're going to cover stuff, whether it be the leaks, what have you, report the shit or just get the fuck out and pretend you're a Ramblin' Rod morning cartoon channel. I don't care. I'm just so tired of it because the amount of times we've had other companies doing stuff that really should have been reported, really should have been talked about more. It's so, now it's become so transparent that you're like, jeez. By the way, I don't think this stuff shouldn't be reported. What makes me angry is I know that the moment this calms down, we're going to go right back to the same status quo of people preferential treatment of stuff. It's just, it gets boring after a while. It's like, oh, well, we know this kind of stuff happens in other companies. And it's just at this point, man, it's almost like everybody pretends they're surprised because they want you to think they're surprised. So you watch their video or you read their article. And I don't know about you, but you don't cover this kind of stuff, but even you aren't surprised. So it's like, why are we acting? Why is there an act? Why is there an act of fakery around that part? That's,
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm naive, but I just pretty much expect when the next AC comes out finally in February, it's been delayed.
Mm-hmm.
It will do well like every other Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, even Unity did well.
Every single AC did pretty well. People can bitch about Valhalla, and I certainly had some issues with it, but the games do well, man. They're solid games overall.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a game industry, dude. It's by the way, Silver couldn't make it. He didn't feel well, so he got a hold of me and said that he could make it. I apologize, I didn't say that at the start, but we just decided to start because we were a little late because my system was messed up. By the way, if we just blot out in the middle of this podcast, it's because I have a horrendous issue with power in this home, and has a tendency to just pop all the breakers in the middle of the day, and it's done it last 7 or 8 days, I think, that I've been trying to stream in the Discord. It's gone bad. But yeah, that's the thing, dude. It's like people are pretending delays don't happen. They happen all the time. All of this kind of pretend stuff is like, whatever. I'm done with it. After a certain point, I just get tired of hearing the same stuff slightly differently said. That's why even in here, I've got a lot of shit for us moving on topics. But it's like, what are we going to do? Are we just gonna sit here and talk around it for the 7,000th time? There's a black samurai in Assassin's Creed.
And until we don't know the facts and how it pans out, it's all like, you know, we're making up stuff. We're reading into stuff or conjecture. Yeah, it is.
What hasn't been boring this week is we did get a demo for Mephisto, or whatever the fuck that game's called.
Metaphor Fantasio.
Yeah, Metaphor Fantasio. What'd you think of that? You played the demo?
I didn't complete the demo because it's quite long, but I did play something like 4 hours on it so far. I'm very mixed on it, actually. I liked some stuff. I like the way combat works, where you can pretty much like warm up the enemies by like whacking onto them, and then you start the fight itself and they're like already stunned and stuff. And the way the combat flows is much faster, it feels, compared to Persona. You know, it's snappy. They got the cool animations of stuff that pops on screen. I like that a lot. I like the flow of the combat. And they always have amazing, weird-looking enemies, don't they? Like the weird bad guys that are like out of someone's imagination, some crazy imagination. I like that stuff. I personally, I love the cutscenes are great, right? They're always great. They're animated and they're a great like production value. I don't like how the game looks out in the world.
It's fucking horrendous. Sorry.
There's something.
I mean, I can lie and pretend that I slightly don't like it, but this is one of the first times where I've seen the game, but the scene a game, and been that turned off by the graphics when I saw it.
There's something about sitting out there in the open areas that I was utterly unimpressed by. I loved a lot of stuff about it, but that was the one thing where this stylized look in the world itself, it's so low detail that it's really not doing anything for me.
Yeah. And the FPS, you know, we talked, I think you were in that chat. We had a bunch of people in there.
Yeah.
And it was like back and forth about what we thought of the FPS and the times where it looked like the anime was over the top of the FPS, the anime characters were over the top of the graphics, like they were rendered separately, and then it's are they going for stop motion? They go for blah blah blah. I want to point out I've loved games that graphically didn't impress me, so I'm not going to worry about, I'm not worried about it. I saw it, I was like, okay, this is unimpressive till I'll get out. Like, I'm not excited about what I'm seeing, but that really means nothing. It's just it's a demo. So you're just like, okay, this didn't grab me.
It could be the initial area too.
It could be the initial area. Yeah, it could be. And by the people who loved it, that, we've seen this before, the first 10, or 5 hours or whatever, really good. Then it falls apart. We saw that. We were just talking about Mafia 3 recently, which is one of those games that was front loaded. So we don't know exactly how that'll go. But it does remind you of those other stop motion games you and I talked about. The one based in the Midwest for Microsoft, the stop motion one. And then there's the VR, or what looked like VR/PS5 game that was shown at the trailer that also had a weird stop motion, kind of graphic to it. But Sky Days, what's up? $20 super chat. Happy Friday, boys. Been catching up on the last few weeks. I will now disappear until Christmas. Hope you're both well. Thank you very much.
Cheers, man.
Wait, why do you disappear until Christmas? Do you like end up going off and doing your own thing, or are you for some reason edging the podcast? He might be edging the podcast. Might want to hold back till Christmas.
I think he won't mind me sharing that he started working in like I forgot the name of the profession, but kind of like CSI, like a forensic. There you go.
Sky Days did?
Yeah. So that was
hey man,
cool to
Sky
hear.
Days, you told him? I talked to you in DMs, man. You didn't tell me? Boy, I'll tell you, now I don't like him. Now he told you more about his. We're done. We're done. We're done. Yeah, no, congratulations if that's what you're doing. It's taking time to go off and make a career. You need to do it. Besides, I want to see another CSI Miami. So I would love for him to do it. And
it will be like the British version, CSI Bristol, or something like
CSI Bristol. I don't know why, but that does not give me some idea of hope. CSI Bristol.
Yeah, no, it would be terrible.
CSI Cockney. Let's see. As Skyday says, I'm an enigma. Yeah, it's okay, man. You know, it's all right. I mean, I'll hold it against you, but whatever. You know, don't be too bothered by it. He's probably secretly Santa Claus now prepping for Christmas. He could be. So people know what's going on. One of my fingers got broken, and I'm trying to separate the nail from the bed here. I apologize. I broke it right before the podcast.
What did you do? What happened?
Long story. Yeah. Nothing bad, but
okay.
Long story.
Okay.
Yeah, just one of those. But typical stupid thing you would expect from me, you know. Skyday says, I told you, Carrick. Okay, here's the thing. Normally I would remember that stuff, but I am going to say I absolutely trust that you did tell me, and I apologize. I absolutely trust that if you say you told me, you did. There's times when people will say they told you something. You know how that is.
You'll be like,
I told you, and you're all,
did you know? Yeah.
But if he says he told me, he for sure 100% told me, and I somehow didn't remember that. So I apologize. So we got Mephisto. We got sorry.
It's fine. Yeah.
Metaphor.
At this point,
I know people are going to get mad. I'm just playing
name.
around.
That's the code name now.
You know somebody's going to be like, I can't. My name doesn't respect my name. You've got that. You've got the demo, which was nice. Great to see that demo. It was announced random, right?
Yeah.
Which was
and I think this is the proper way to do a demo, which is it's a good chunk. It's like the full prologue or whatever. You get to play through what the actual game will feel like. So it's not one of those times where you have access to every single spell in the game and you feel completely overwhelmed.
Right.
Kind of like Stellar Blade a little bit had that going.
I like the demo Stellar Blade did?
In the demo, yeah, because you had so many skills and stuff. But yeah, I like this, and it carries over. So, you know, if you have a great time and you're bought into the full game, you get to continue right where you left off. If you want to grind a little in the demo, all that. I think this is the best way to go about it.
This is the demo for you.
This is yeah.
What else? Let's see. We got TGI Fridays. We got TGS that covered a bunch of stuff. You know, I saw the Tokyo Game Show stuff. Wasn't too, you know, it was what it was. Microsoft showed some stuff, but is there anything from that particular show that like wowed you or got you interested in a game, or you're gonna have to look right now?
Nothing. I'm looking it up. Yeah, I need to verify because nothing stuck to me when I looked at it. They showed some Dragon Ball stuff for the new like sparking game, and I thought, you know, that looked pretty much like every other. I hate to be negative because I like Dragon Ball, but it feels like it looks like every other Dragon Ball Z game they've done, pretty much.
Yeah.
I hope
is that
I'm wrong.
like Sparkling Cider or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. That one.
Absolutely.
You know, here's the thing, dude. Those games, they don't change much. They sort of identify what they want to do, and they aim for it. They hit it. I think the big change was going 3D from 2D. You know, back in I can't remember many years ago, whatever. When
they go
3D.
Back and forth, kind of.
Yeah, I think they're just generally fun games. They don't need to change much. I mean, they have like 6,700 characters, right? It's been going for 1,000 years, so. There's not much you can change until we figure out 4D gaming or something crazy like that. To expect a big change from them is a little weird. I think the RPG stuff is more along the lines where change will occur, like RPG style games and stuff. But Sparkling Zero,
yeah, Sparkling Zero. They showed Life is Strange, right? Didn't they?
Did they?
Am I wrong? I'll have to confirm that.
I mean, did they show it again? Because it's already been shown.
It has been shown, yeah.
3 or 4 times.
I thought I saw something from TGS about that. But yeah, nothing. Was there anything you saw that stuck with you? No.
No, that's why I put blah, 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 blah in the thumbnail, man. Because this was one of those weeks where there was an event and... So we're definitely getting to the point of diminishing returns in event specialness and surprise, right? Especially the big events. And that's, you know, we've known for years, like for the most part, the Summer Games Fest, they're the ones who pay for all the secrets and spoiler shit. That's where all the money's going, is to either Summer Game Fest or the Game Awards. So the TGS and things like that, they definitely adhere to a very particular national kind of game, like Tokyo Game Show. It's probably going to have games that align for that. But I feel like we've known about some of these for so long, like we just were trying to figure out if Life is Strange was even shown. So it's just one of those things. I think there's not a lot of surprise in gaming right now. I think a lot of leaks of the top games got shown. The companies, what have you, some games were announced, delayed. Some games have just been announced, but there isn't a big amount of surprise. When there is, it's very cool, very cool. But it's just that there isn't a ton.
I thought the Ghost of Tsushima, well, it has a different name, right? But the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, they showed the trailer.
But I mean, who in the world didn't think that was coming out?
Oh, true.
Right?
It was for
Is there
sure
a single human on the earth who doesn't think that they were going to do exactly what happened? Like, for example, female protagonist, check. There was no question in my mind, especially because we knew it wasn't going to be him. There was no question, none, zero, that's what it's going to be. That it was like, it's just not going to be that. That was for sure what was going to happen. And then it's Ghost of Tsushima. It's a great game.
Yeah, it's a great game.
And it's by the company we knew was going to be making it. So there's no surprise.
It makes sense. If something...
I'm happy to not be surprised. If there was something surprising, I might be mad on that game. I don't know what it would be, but if you got something
we
really
want it to be what we expect in a way, which is more of, a great thing. Yeah, I think when you do something for the first time and it turns out to be amazing, like Ghost of Tsushima, you do it again. It's like...
Absolutely.
It's like a girlfriend, like, you spend the night together, it's great. You're probably going to do it again.
Can you imagine just being like, it's great, but you know what? Going to move on.
Nah,
I don't want great again. You're like, but it was really good, right? Oh, no, it's probably the best day of my life, but I'm going to go look for shit. I'm hoping to get something mediocre next time. All right, whatever. Yeah, Ghost is what it is. No surprise there, and happy to see it coming. But not really. The footage they showed was what I expected, I guess. And they showed so little of snippets about it. So it was like, I got to sort of see.
One of those very controlled.
Yeah, don't care at all about the gender of a character. Like, to me, it is what it is. I want to see it. I want to play it.
Yeah.
If it's great, that's what matters.
Insofar you can tell a different type of story through the lens of, a different gender. Because in that world, being female versus being a man can be interesting because maybe you're,
There is absolutely zero chance that will occur.
Okay.
Do you solidly think in today's day and age, they would actually, anyone would go out and I'm not talking about lip service bullshit game developers and everybody does on Twitter where they're like, we care. So you get a little snippet. It's like you're treated poorly for 1 minute and then the game's back to normal. Do you really believe any company would have the balls? And I'm not saying balls would mean better or more courageous. I just mean, well, that is courageous, but that would be pretty insane for a company to say, we're going to treat you like you would have been treated in a particular time frame in a game historically accurate. And I know that we're whitewashing history. We're like, actually, everybody got along, and actually, this group did this. And you're like, sorry. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine if you were playing Ghost?
Pretend like it's in, like in Pokemon, when you beat a Pokemon in battle, they don't die. They just kind of get knocked out.
Right.
And, everybody's fine. Everybody's friends after. It's almost like we're pretending Mongols and, all these people. Yeah. They're just like, nah, they just
one of the worst is Era, the History Untold. That game is so hilarious because they're like, technically, we don't really believe that battle does anything, and it's mostly about humans being fantabulous. And you're like, okay, I get that. But you basically absolutely ruined the entire side of the game that's about battle, which you yourselves put into the game. So it's so it's so weirdly like concave almost in the way you experience that title, because a lot of developers don't want to show some of that stuff because it's uncomfortable to show. It sucks.
Of course,
it does. It sucks,
and
but
you don't necessarily want to show it if it doesn't like help the narrative.
Feed your game.
Yeah, you don't want to just have a bunch of
they didn't screw that. They screwed that up in Era. It does. It is supposed to feed your. Oh yeah, that game is really pretty good for the first couple hours and is a fucking trash fire. Anything after that, it falls apart in so many ways, including like tracking of your empire when it gets really busy. It's really good for people who've never played a game like that and just want to sit back. As Lucitan said yesterday, he played for 3 hours and never once met an enemy. It's that kind of game. That's a really good indicator of what it was.
Low pressure.
Yeah. So if you're if you don't have the mindset, if you it's sort of baby's first day out on that kind of stuff, but then it gets ultimately insanely complex later on, and it sort of reverses you. It's a different style of game, and I can certainly say there were parts I liked about it, but a lot of parts. But
that almost sounds like it wouldn't please either crowd. The crowd that wants something really challenging and interesting would be bored by the beginning, where there isn't that challenge until you get to the later parts. And then the people who want something casual and very simple, when they get to that more complicated part, I
think that's fair, because I think its average review is in the 70s, low 70s to mid 70s. So I think that's pretty fair, that sometimes you're extremely excited about what you're experiencing, and then other times you're like, what am I experiencing?
Yeah.
But it's just one of those games. And back to Ghost, this is the problem with any of these historical games. You start messing around, even with the Warriors, whatever, you can only go so far, because then things start to get really weird. And when I look at Ghost, the reason why I was saying is I expected everything we got is because where else did people think we were going to go? Like, it feels to me, but right prior to Ghost of Tsushima 2 being announced, if you said, where do you think it's going to go? I feel like this would be the only answer, other than just continuation, which I don't feel sells right now. I don't know about you.
It's no longer Mongols, is it? Like, I think it's a different...
Well, we don't really know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, they show some, characters in the game and stuff, but it's like, until we get the game, it's hard to even talk about what it is. But different place. Graphics on the mountain looked cool, but then it's like, can we go there? What is that? If we do go there, will that be a Todd Howard moment, or will it be... I
would like a different set of enemies instead of the Mongols, maybe something different. Yeah, because we saw a lot of Mongols in that for sure.
Yeah, man. Well, and I'm surprised some people with Mongol heritage weren't like, hey, you're anti-Mongol. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think we've gotten away. A lot of game companies, even if they're considered courageous, they all have a very beaten path that they sort of have to follow, which is the continuation of the game, or a complete, like, not 180, but like we have to change some core milestones, which is exactly what we're getting with Ghost, which, by the way, still no issue with. I wouldn't have had an issue if they were just like, it's 1 year later, and we're doing this, or now what is this, 200 years later is what they said?
Yeah, I believe so.
So that means gunpowder and all that shit is going to be in there. So that's going to, hopefully it doesn't turn into that Rice-A-Roni game. That's Kig. That's what Kig calls it, but Rice-A-Roni, that game, Rise of the Ronin was rough, man.
Yeah. Someone is saying in chat, Ghost of Tsushima 2, the Mongols strike back.
Dude, I'd sort of dig that.
They've taken 200 years to perfect their techniques and technology, and they're back.
Yeah.
And they still
Sailor
suck.
says, I'm fine with this not being a direct sequel. Jin was great, but I want a new adventure. Yeah, I don't see any issue with... I would have been fine if it was a direct, and I'm fine that it's not. But I do know that it wasn't going to be anything else, is what I was saying.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I think people need to start to come to grips with, is that you're not going to see adjustments in that way. It's going to be pretty much the same.
And similar to like Spider-Man 2, It's pretty much what we want, isn't it? Like if Spider-Man 2 was suddenly an isometric,
right.
like
well, not only that, let's carve out this detail. If you look at Spider-Man and you look at its history, was there any question whatsoever by anybody ever that it wasn't going to be Miles Morales? Was there even a single person in all of the universe who did not think that if a split-off happened, it would not be Miles? Of course it was good.
Yeah.
Like, it fits all the things going on in gaming, society, blah, blah, blah. There's no
culture
question.
With the movie and everything.
Yeah, the only other one you could have done at the time wasn't as popular, now might work, would be Gwen, Spider-Gwen or whatever. But, like, that's what I'm saying is after a while, you're not too surprised by, like, these choices. You just sort of look at them and you're like, yeah.
No, it makes sense. It's like, it's two Spider-Men now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, like, it makes sense.
Yeah, which I also think, again, is fine. I find it quite annoying that we only get these clean games for media or in general that are supposed to not offend anyone and just make everything look nice, fair, boring. I find it quite annoying that we only get these clean games.
So, like, they don't take a lot of risks, I guess, in terms of what they show?
I don't know. I don't even know what that would mean because we definitely get smaller games we do.
Yeah.
I mean, because like Banishers, well, admittedly, maybe only 3 of us played Banishers. But if you played and beat Banishers, Banishers was pretty risky. There was stuff going on in Banishers, including racial stuff, character stuff, evil, good, that was insanely edge. It was on the edge. It was certainly more than you would see from most companies. I'll say that. So, and politically correct game. The problem is there's no such thing as politically correct game anymore. Because if you try to do a politically correct game, the other political side doesn't think it's politically correct. We have completely lost because there is no middle ground anymore. It's just right and left, and the people in the center get mowed over.
Yeah.
Games are creatively stifled because they can't offend. Yeah, see, we have many games that offend on purpose, too. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know, man. I think I understand, but I'm not going to say out loud because I'm actually thinking this person wants to say something that is really questionable. But I'm just going to let it sit. Because I think there's only 1 or 2 things that you could really want in games that aren't happening. That it's like, if you want that in games, maybe you're not my kind of person. But I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll have to see.
And like we were saying, just showing stuff for the sake of showing something horrible happening, if it doesn't, lift the story up in some way, is it really adding, right? Or are you having that stuff there just for shock?
Yeah, because look at all the horror games that show HC Geiger, HG Geiger, I think, show all
where everything is a butthole or like
everything's a penis, everything's a, you're just like, whoa. So we get those really, really dark body horror things, right?
Yeah.
Super body horror. Then we go all the way to the pseudo intellectual stuff. And then we have most everything in between. I think some people don't think we have them, though, because they're not necessarily sold by Sega. Right?
Right.
You don't see Capcom you do see Silent Hill, but I think Silent Hill is, weirdly enough, pretty tame now. Silent Hill's sort of baby tame, in a way, to me.
Yeah.
Kenshi, $5 super chat. Hey, Carrick, I know you're in the Pacific Northwest. Any plans to go to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo? Thanks for all the videos. Love the podcast. I think that's a good question, but I do want to point out that I'm not a huge retro gamer in the way I think everybody else is. I'm more of a retro gamer and talking about them and like enjoying it through others. But when I turn on a game where there's a pudgy ass Final Fantasy character, the chance of me sitting through it is really low.
Or, dude, you start playing it and you're excited. Oh, I love this game. And then you die and you realize there are no checkpoints. Now you have to do like an entire level again because the game is old and doesn't have.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Okay, so let's go through some retro games that I would play. Columns, play the shit out of Columns. But again, it's not a great game like in the... It's not a game that really reflects gameism. It's just some colored blocks. So it doesn't suffer under the retro tag. If I had to play Daggerfall, I would, but I can tell you I would realize it's pretty beat up, you know. It's pretty scuffed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a little next generation trashy. KOTOR is really rough now. Jade Empire, pretty rough. I did play Baldur's Gate recently, #1, without any mods.
The first one.
Yeah, but I played it on a handheld at like a resolution like this big, like the size of most bullies' penises. So the idea of playing it...
Does that make it better or worse?
It makes it better because you can just barely see it, you know?
Okay,
it's just like it doesn't look as rough or as pixelated. It was hard to control. It was hard to control. I used some programs to get the gamepad to work. And then there's also the new remakes of a couple of those that allow you to use a radio menu, which is great. What about you? What's a retro game? Like retro, not retro, but you know what I mean, old.
It's funny because someone in chat said it. It's Mega Man 10, Mega Man 11, those games. I used to play those with my cousin back in the day, and we loved them. We used to like learn everything, all the tricks. And I played it recently with him because, well, he's from Brazil, visited me for a little bit here in London. Sure. So we got to, play some of those games. And we just realized, dude, those games were really unfriendly because you were supposed to like spam one button while holding another button. That was a mechanic, like a key mechanic that you had to do. Imagine nowadays people would shit themselves if like, Dark Souls or something requested of you that you need to like hold the A button while also spamming the X button on your controller. Anyway, it's just the memory was better than the actual thing once you go back to it. They're still great games, but the moment to moment in them is just, it's not what we remember.
And these are Mega Man, you said.
Mega Man.
Okay. Mega Man. All right, let me look at it. See, here's the thing. They all look so bad now. They all, they're pixelation wise and just I'm really having a difficult time even remembering one that I would want to play because I also don't believe in having to repeat and go back to it. If I enjoyed it, going back to it might indicate it might be enjoyable, but it might also remove a bit of the memory. And I'm okay with memories, man. I'm okay with them. Like I'll get friends and we'll have it in the voice chat. Somebody be like, they'll start telling the same story for the 40th time. You're like, dude, what are we doing? It was funny. We get it. It was funny, but you don't need to tell the same story 40. Like at some point you're ruining, you're just trashing the memory. Just let it be, Remember that time? I do. Good enough. Let's move on. Let's not sit there and regurgitate and fillet that menu to death or that memory to death. The same thing happens with games. You don't have to return to them always. Like sometimes it's best to have that good memory.
Someone made a point. Have you watched Lost more than once? And yes, like I recently rewatched all of Lost. And I think shows are just slightly different actually because they, a lot
shows
of them
aren't connected
age very well, don't they?
Not only they age very well. And not only that, depending on, what aspect ratio they're recorded at. For example, Babylon 5 I watched multiple times, but its aspect ratio as well as the way they did the graphics were right prior to the big technical change, so they don't look good when they're upscaled. They are actually, there's actually a mechanical / scientific problem with those, where with Lost there's no problem. I mean, you can get upscaler / sharpeners, AI improving kind of things for Lost and have it look like pretty much a brand new show. It's not connected to games. Games are a completely different thing, especially if you're a true retro gamer. And what I mean by that is those people who are like, they go out and they buy the 8-mint system that costs them $600 to connect to an HDMI because they don't want to, use an emulator or whatever. And those guys are putting some serious money into their memory. Which is very cool.
Yeah, and dude, think about all the ways in which we have improved the interaction between player and game. The controllers are better, the controls themselves, the responsiveness, quality of life, things like the checkpoints we're talking about, all these things have improved over time. With shows, there hasn't been a need to change like how we interface with them because we're just taking in a picture.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. That is actually a good
that's
point.
A big difference right there.
That like movies and TV shows, the only thing that changes is possibly the style of art itself.
Yeah.
How comedic. So, for example, back in the day, you had laugh tracks. Like when you look at laugh tracks, what are the laugh tracks of old video games? So you get what I'm saying? So a laugh track was to help you carry along with the TV show and allow for you to engage with the TV show and know when to engage. With a game, old style, there was probably one or two things in old games that have been removed because they really are no longer needed. They're a little like laugh tracks in TV shows, which are really very rarely a thing anymore. And when I hear an old laugh track in Friends, it causes me the first couple times to go like, whoa, what the? And then I get right. I don't know about you. Once I hear it a couple times, then it's gone. The laugh track is gone. Like I don't know why, but I can ignore it.
Yeah.
But the first couple times,
it's one of those things you learn how to tune it out. Like you and I like to read as well sometimes. Like when you read a book, there are all these phrases like he said, or he screamed, or like after someone said something, the author will write specifically, Damien said, or like whoever said, and your brain learns how to tune out those things in a way like you're not really reading a lot of times those things. They just become like kind of
the he said, she said, they said is a structure.
We just skip through it.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's like if you look at a house and somebody says that's a 2-story house, that's a 1-story house, but behind it and beneath it is what concrete did they use, blah blah blah, and that's the he said, she said kind of stuff. And they're building blocks. They're quite important, but our brains skip those. With games, I would say we definitely skip them. When I was trying to see if there was a laugh track kind of situation with games, what's gone away with games, I would say, weirdly enough, it's not that things have gone away. It's that they've just been added to because the technology is different. With TV shows and stuff, the technology's been the same, like you said, for 40 years, 60 years, 70 years. With games, we've only gotten the ability to cause the gamer to come closer to the game. Originally, the games were pretty far away. There wasn't save games. Then there were, but they were passwords that were 60 symbols long. So the distance between the gamer and the steps they had to do to enjoy the game are a lot less than quick resume. Dude, quick resume is fucking weird. I still don't even care, but when I engage with quick resume, I'm like,
feels good.
Damn. Yeah, but so look at that distance. In the old days, it was a cartridge, put it in, blow it off first, right? Got to blow it off first, make sure it works. Put it in, turn it on, game starts. Now, it's a library, and it quite literally is quick resume, and it's there.
Like one or two button presses, you're in another game.
So the distance between many games, not all games, I'm sure somebody can come up with multiple examples both now and in the past where this is reversed. But I think for the majority of games, there was a distance to getting into them. There was a distance to continue to experience them. When somebody said, let's play a game, here's my 40 code save game, I'd be like, you can fuck off. I will come over after you've entered those symbols. I am not coming over to watch you go over 40 symbols on a piece of paper. They'll be like, bug, spectacles, A, S, O, and you get all the way to the end, and it's like, it's wrong, and it wouldn't tell you what was wrong. And so you were like, okay, are the O's wrong? Are the S's wrong? Are the money signs wrong? And it's like, fuck you, game company, you're wrong. Like, you guys need to fix your shit. But those stopped me from engaging in the games, and now they've been, they're gone, and that's like a huge bonus. It's crazy to think what we had to jump through, Johnny. Like, it's nuts what we has to, and what we thought was not normal, but we didn't even think about it because it was normal.
Yeah, we also didn't have a ton of options, being realistic. You had like 2 games or something. You could afford 2 games.
Yep.
Like you don't have 10 other games that are releasing this week to get to that are all amazing and have great quality of life, which is a lot of times the situation we're in today,
Yeah, dude, it is crazy, man. Back then, you'd get that one game and you'd take it home cherished like a babe, like a newborn babe. You'd be holding it and you'd be like, get the fuck away from me. Like a good presidential protector. But you'd be like consistently like, get away from me. This is my game. It mattered because there was only the one. It was like, this is a big deal to me. It's $60. Get away. I'm going to play this game. And it was a special event to take a game home, man. When you bought that game, it was a big deal.
Go to the store and like look, and then boom, there's a new game, and you happen to have the money and everything. Like, wow.
So I got sort of lambasted, but I'm just gonna say I still believe this is true. That we've now had a complete reversal, and then in the prior days, the excitement was because we had the game, and now the excitement is getting the game. And I think that's one huge place gaming is in a dire straits. It used to be you'd get the occasional magazine, but that was it. Then the game would come out and your excitement was the game and playing it. Currently, the excitement is prior to playing it now. It is the trailers. It is the discussion prior. It is the anticipation. And that is also wounded by how many games, because it's hard to talk about a specific game with a friend when you both have it, but he hasn't played it. He or she hasn't played it. But the reversal of fortunes in gaming, dude, is huge. Man, you used to go and you'd see a magazine and you'd sort of try to remember the game name because it'd be like, in 3 months, Mephisto was coming out. And you're like, okay, I got to remember that. But then that might be the only magazine that covered it. Yeah. And so when you got it, your celebration was discovery of the game itself. And I'm not saying we don't have that as much anymore, but I think for the worldwide game network of people, it certainly seems to be more where it's reversed to where the celebration or the excitement, the whatever, is prior to getting it. And then it's almost like after sex. It's like once everybody gets it, some people still talk about it. That was good. But a lot of people are like, there's just like a breath of like.
Yep. Immediately like becomes kind of not the main topic. Like it's sort of to the
Isn't
side.
it weird? It's so, and it'll only be weird to people who are old enough to remember when it really was a thing, that the game itself was what was, it was everything. And now and you used to be able to hold the game. And I do think that also matters. Not being able to hold the game, not being able to say, this is what I got, but instead pointing into your controller and saying, this is what I'm playing. That there's a difference between
and
the sense
knowing
of that.
precious little about a game before you jump in too. For example, let's say a new Final Fantasy game used to come out. Mm-hmm. I knew I was going to play it because I liked Final Fantasy, but I had no idea even what it looked like. Maybe I saw a picture in the magazine, but that's it. Now we're consuming all this content prior, like we're watching, your reviews, right? Like we're watching reviews pop up before the game is out.
Right.
We're looking at all the, like there's Let's Plays, like Fighting Cowboy, right? He already beat the game and has a full Let's Play before the game comes out.
Yeah.
By the time the game comes, like we know all the, like, warts. Like we know the game almost like really well what it is actually.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, is that we do already know. And if let's say you took every magazine that wrote about Oblivion prior to it coming out, because that was pretty much pre-internet, pre-YouTuber. There were still YouTubers, but it was certainly a billionth of what it is now. Yeah. So let's say there's 9,000 words written. No, let's multiply it. Let's say we'll say 900,000. We'll just explode this. So let's say there were 900,000 words written about it. Those 900,000 words were contained within a costly endeavor called magazines. Their actual your ability to get into it required you to purchase a magazine. You didn't even know if it would have that coverage inside of it, because it might be a magazine that those editors and writers weren't into. They may not have gotten invited to an event. Now there's a bajillion articles and
for free
and
at the click of a button.
At the click of a button, and videos at the click of a button. At the click, and many of them just regurgitating, watching somebody else. But still, it's a different situation, man. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah. Is there any other retros that you like? Mega Man. What about?
I still like some Final Fantasy, some older ones like Final Fantasy 9. I would say 7 is pretty rough to play, like the OG.
Oh yeah, that thing's creaky.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. I mean, I loved it and I played it but like 2-3 times. But yeah, they're pretty rough. I like 10 a lot. I have replayed it and probably will in the future. 12, like the Zodiac one with the gambits, was fun. So yeah, some of those I see myself replaying sometime in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't yet found many that I want to return to other than, the age-olds.
Yeah, it's pretty rare, honestly.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a different... I mean, I'm sure there is, but it'd be fun to get Middle Jesus Rocks or something on here who's such a retro gamer and be like, okay, what is it about you where you so enjoy the thought process of returning to the same thing so many times and cherish it so much versus me, who I can only return to a certain year almost, or a certain technology. It's almost like there's a certain technology, a line in the sand where like my brain doesn't see before it. It's like, can't do that. So it'd be fun to... Wizard of Smoke says, I'd like to boot up the original Flight Sim. No, you wouldn't. Trust me. Original Flight Sim is rough. Man, that's an ancient shit. The original Flight Sim is old. Yeah. Dev Guy says Unreal 1999. I think he's talking about games that I still play. He is right. I do have Unreal 1999 installed on my PC currently. So there is one. Yeah, there is one.
There you go.
Shooters seem to be a little bit more easy to go back to. 3D. How about that? We'll say 3D. I think 2D is where I start having an issue, other than Rayman. I don't know if you ever played the old Rayman, but they were graphically so pretty, and so they were so artful and designed in such a way. They weren't as good as platformers as other games, but artistically they were very high. So returning to those was pretty... Yeah, that was pretty easy. I hadn't thought about that. All right. Looking at some of the news, you brought up that you wanted to talk about a couple of things, one of them being Space Marine a little bit again. You said something about Space Marine?
Yeah, so there's a big patch that dropped
right.
yesterday.
Yeah.
And so listen to this, right? We played a bunch in the Discord with people, and some of our biggest complaints were the goat guys with the shields. They are immensely tanky, and you would get invaded by like dozens of them, right? And similarly, the tiny sniper guys that sit in the back and almost one-shot you. They're a tiny human. You can kill them with one projectile.
Yep.
But if you don't, they can almost one-shot you. So anyway, they've reduced those by a giant amount. So check this out. The goat guys, the shield goat guys, instead of spawning 10, it now spawns 4. The sniper dudes, instead of 10, you get 3. So they've reduced the number of spawns of those enemies by a giant amount. They also reduced the number of like fire guys that will spawn on you, like the chaos guys with the flamethrower. So those missions are now a lot more doable. I jumped in and it was like night and day. It's a really, really massive. They also buffed the assault class, the jetpack ground pound thing that does 30% more damage, which is significant. And the fist, which was not very popular, also got like a 30% damage buff. So they touched some stuff, but overall, I think the biggest deal is the mobs, like those little guys that, there were too many of them. I think it's in a good spot now. And then they added private lobbies, which everybody wanted. And they also added a spot in the barge, like when you're getting ready for a mission, where you can spar with people in your party, so you can just like fight it out, practice a few combos stuff.
What do you mean they turned a spawn from 10 to 4? I don't understand what that means.
So like when we used to get a wave or two in those chaos levels with the Chaos Marines, you could get up to 10 of those shield guys spawning. like in even one wave sometimes.
Yeah.
And now that number is down to 4 at maximum.
But what did they do to keep it super hard?
That's the thing. It's not. It's much easier now.
Fucking
so all those
really?
chaos levels.
See, that is the dumbest fucking idea dude, this kind of shit, man. That is the State of Decay bullshit where they pussified everything. They panicked and removed one of the best parts of the game. You don't have to remove that for every single difficulty. You could adjust it. You could go 10, 6, 10, 8, 6, something for different difficulties. But that's the kind of shit where we all have to deal with these guys fucking who are like, oh, it's too fucking hard. Why would they? It's so stunning that they would change that and not maybe do private lobbies first to see how private gamers handle it. Like, is it a part with randoms and they need more communication? Is it part, because I don't love them. I don't love them at all. But I don't want them going from 10 to 4. Come on. That is a massive number, and whatever.
Yeah, I think they went a little bit overboard with it. I would have loved to see a smaller reduction. I like the change, don't get me wrong, because it did feel ridiculous at times when you had 20 snipers and you couldn't even do a combo because you just had to dodge the whole time. But isn't it
supposed to feel ridiculous? Let me give you an example. I was able to beat it without feeling ridiculous on normal. When I went up one level, it was very, very difficult, and I was able to usually defeat it. Is that not quite literally what we would want from a game? Even if it feels ridiculous, the fact that you beat ridiculous is what matters. It's not the fact that you barely beat slightly hard.
Yeah, I think the issue is that when you compare the Tyranids to the Chaos enemies, there was a giant difficulty jump. And I think
because of the different types on the Chaos Marines, the spawning pieces of shit.
The amount of spawns and just the difficulty dealing with the flame guys in Chaos levels is much harder than the Tyranids. So I like the idea, which is, hey, let's take the Chaos levels down a bit more down towards where Tyranid levels are. So every mission is more or less a similar difficulty. But I agree with you. I think they have gone overboard. It did feel a bit too easy because I was just kind of cruising through a mission in Ruthless, right?
And not only that, the ending levels are the Chaos Marines. If you are in level 6, 7, and 8, if those are not harder than 1, 2, and 3, what fucking kind of game are you playing in the first?
Tyranids,
6 is back to Tyranids. But 6
3,
is
4,
also
5.
to Tyranids with other special shit that goes on that makes that quite difficult at times. I thought that there were levels that were actually quite difficult later on, even with the Tyranids, especially the Sandstorm. I thought the Sandstorm made things quite difficult. That's just me personally.
Yeah, the visibility. Yeah. So that's interesting. Big patch.
Yeah. I uninstalled it. I'll never play it again. I'm done. I had a good time, really good time.
Yeah. We put a lot of time into it.
We had a good time, and I'm glad I've moved on because that kind of stuff is the exact neutering down and mowing down of enjoyment that I worry about in these kind of games, especially the big change. That's the big problem. These companies panic so much.
The knee jerk,
and they've done well, so they want to do weller, right? Because they have done really well. So they're like, hey, let's fucking annihilate everything. And then weirdly enough, your concurrent player a lot of times is the guy grinding against the hard. And when that goes away, and this is what I heard yesterday when I heard some people streaming it, they were like, oh, well,
yeah,
it's pretty easy. I'm done. And I'm like,
I had the same thing in Lies of P. There was a boss that...
Oh, you told me about Lies of P. Yeah, they patched it, right?
They patched it was called... Not Master of Puppets. That's the song.
But, I thought you were calling it Nut Master of Puppets. I'm like, dude, that's an amazing
I'm
name
trying to remember. Puppet Master? Yeah, Puppet Master. I needed at least 30 attempts on that boss. It was more than any boss in a Souls game, or, it was definitely the most attempts. Maybe Sekiro, I had to do a bit more, but yeah, you get the idea. It was very rough, right? Yeah. And then they nerfed that boss to the ground, and of course it doesn't affect me because it's not like I'm going back to play it.
Yeah, you've already defeated it, right?
I've already defeated it, but it kind of feels like yeah, they overreacted to it because it was definitely a cool moment in the game where you had to get your shit together, and it was a skill check, but I thought it was a fair one and like a tough but fun moment in the game. So
Brandon Martin, $5 super chat. What's up, Brandon? Thank you very much for supporting the channel. I'm playing Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, the PS1 versions on GOG. That's crazy. Those are ancient, man.
Yeah.
You, the master of unlocking, take this key. Zanko, welcome. At supporter Discord access as well as A1 Nagel. Thank you both. Appreciate
Actually, someone was asking me which channel should they join on YouTube.
Either one.
The podcast, so they get access in both of them.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, either helps. I'm sort of done pushing this channel. There's other stuff I could do, but I'm like, all right, whatever. Podcast is up. Discord's up. I've got a bunch of shit to worry about on the side for like the review stuff. So right now it's just like Discord access works here. It works exactly the way I want. You apply, you get Discord after a little bit of time. I think it's like, I can't remember how YouTube does it, but it's like 24 hours. It's pretty quick. It might even be quicker than that.
It was much faster than that because a friend of mine, Antisky, that's been with us.
Yeah.
He got it like almost instant. So
it could be faster. I want to make sure everybody understands that just because one person goes fast doesn't mean the system wasn't just for whatever reason really efficient that day. It's like the DMV. Hey, it was fast for me. So you go in and 45 hours later, you were eating your own fingernails for sustenance because you've been there that long. But feel free. It's we're going to make sure that like it's weird. Discord is definitely set up here. I'm going to probably put some JPEGs icons. It's easier to go through the Discord just because you get more. That's the one thing I don't like about YouTube is they all steal money, right? YouTube steals money from you. Discord steals money. Well, they don't steal. They have to take some amount, but they take 50%. I find that a little bit weird that they think that they need 50% out of $1 to do whatever it is they do.
Yeah.
And so we've got it set up. It's it works great. Yeah, you can be a subscriber, jump into the Discord. We have some awesome stuff.
Yeah.
We have some good times.
We do a bunch of voice chats in there, and you're always in there because we see it a lot with creators where they have a Discord set up, but they basically, you never see them in their own Discord.
No. Yeah, I definitely enjoy being in there with you guys. Probably, like I always joke, probably too much for some people. I
like
definitely
to watch.
I like but I mean, we're definitely thinking of doing a bunch more because I've done 3 patron D&D games. We did, we do the behind the scenes podcasts a lot of times. We don't call them podcasts because I don't record them because nobody's comfortable with recording at all. Nobody wants to be recorded in a Discord. I think that's only fair. Nobody wants to be recorded. So what we usually do is we just usually say, like, come into the channel when we're all in there and we'll talk about behind the scenes stuff with gaming. There's been a couple times where I'm like, this would be fun. These conversations. We were in there about 9 hours a couple days ago from like 6 in the afternoon to like 5:30 talking about the business. And I was like, man, I wish I could record this because it was some of the best conversations ever. It was like how it started with Cyberpunk sort of causing the ripple effect of companies, the panic we're seeing, where companies are, because like people are like, oh, Ubisoft is panicking. You have no clue what you're talking about. Like that is now the status quo of a company. Like it is nothing compared to what we saw prior, especially when COVID was here. But we had this really cool discussion of like what started with Cyberpunk, definitely started there, and is what's been bookended now by Concord. Because those are the two that you see panic. You see like sheer panic on Sony's part where they don't even know what to do. So they just remove a top tier 4-year-long game, which is how it started with Cyberpunk, where it came out and they removed a top tier. So those are your 2 bookends. And dude, the conversation took 8 hours, man. Like it was long. And it was one of those times where people were saying stuff that I was like, this might be the best conversation I've ever had other than with you guys and friends and stuff. But you mentioned recording. You get people who don't even say anything bad. They're like,
in a way, it just changes the way people behave. And
you got a family reunion, your cousins and nephews are joking. You throw the camcorder on, you touch the button, and suddenly everybody acts different.
You have to join the Discord if you want to partake in those conversations.
Yeah. or no, that is the only way.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. One day we'll figure out a way to do, like, I would love to have a YouTube, like some kind of way where you could have the people talk. Almost you'd need AI, filter them out so you get rid of the pieces of shit, right? You get rid of the and I'm not talking about people who discram, you know what I mean? You know, the filth that you get, and you're able to have a real time back and forth with people. Because you see all these hilarious, like, we're going to go and we're going to fucking, you know, I'm going to rent out a Coliseum and you can come sit down and talk to me. It's like 12 people show up. It's because nobody's got the fucking money for those things.
Yeah.
But YouTube, you could have a virtual, not Coliseum, what's the term? A virtual, it is
round
a Coliseum.
table? No.
Yeah, like a round table, but like an event, like almost like a theater where you have but you have a virtual one, so people don't have to spend, you know, it's not just another grift hub kind of way for a person to pretend like they're helping you by touring the world. Like, I don't think most people want to pay for a YouTuber to show up, but they would love to talk to a YouTuber. And having that instant access would be really cool. But YouTube, I think somebody's going to come up with that. VR would have been cool back in the days when we thought VR was cool. Put a headset on, you put a headset on, and we're both, you know, and you can talk to people who are sitting around you. That kind of stuff.
And we can slap each other. We have haptics and stuff.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. You know?
No. Guys, come on.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just saying you're the one who mentioned haptics. God damn it.
I don't think we're there yet, Carrick.
I mean, I don't know. Not there. I feel like you don't think that, you know what, the tech isn't there. I think we're going to get to where the tech is there, and then it's going to be awesome. You would need to treat it like a call-in show. Yep, exactly. That's what we were talking about. Yeah, it would be very cool. It would be very cool. And I think at some point we will get to that kind of stuff so that it's easier for people to just jump in. And that would be exciting to me. Moving on from the complete pussification of Space Marine to the point to where no one should play it, we are going to talk.
Oh, man.
I'm just joking. Stellar Blade and Nier Automata have a collaboration. So is this just Nier Automata's character's butt on the Stellar Blade character?
So,
I was a little confused.
It most certainly will feature 2B's butt. Let's be clear about that.
Hell yeah.
But that's about the only detail we can confirm about the collaboration.
That's what I think too. That's what I thought.
Yes. So we don't know exactly, like, will it be a skin in game? They made it sound like a bit more, like there would be some, you know, like music interplay, like, you know, they would play the automata music, and maybe you'll do a mission
that would be cool.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe she's a character. So we don't know exactly. But yeah, I mean, I love those games, you know, so I'd be interested in checking it out. I usually don't return to a lot of these games, like Stellar Blade, not a game I would personally return to. But if it has like an awesome short and sweet,
like if one butt cheek is one character, the other butt cheek is the other.
I'm not saying it's for that, but you know,
I'd play it.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
Dude, they both had amazing asses. Like, that was one of the things you took away from both those games. Both those games also, you know, I liked Stellar Blade. It had some issues, but I liked it, and I definitely love Nier Automata. So both of those games, they do play differently, though. You know, like the overlap is not there, if you get my drift. Like, the overlap is, or the idea of combining them is not as close as it may seem.
Stellar Blade, you know, you needed to know your combos.
Yeah,
you needed to,
absolutely.
Like, to get through some of those bosses, you needed to be pretty good at abusing, you know.
If you want to clap cheeks,
the stuns and everything.
Better be good.
Yeah, exactly. And Nier Automata, you could pretty much phone it in and get through the game, like, especially in normal mode. There were a couple of difficult moments, but
wait, you're saying that you found Nier Automata easier than Stellar Blade?
Yeah, because
I found Stellar Blade pretty easy.
Did you?
You're
just a god gamer. You're like,
no, I don't think. I feel like you might be misremembering. I could be wrong in this, but I don't think a lot of people thought Stellar Blade was insanely hard.
No, it wasn't. No, it was not insanely hard. It was on the easier side for these games. However, Nier Automata, you could just spam heals all day. You know, you could easily buy like 99 healing, whatever.
Oh, okay.
And so you have endless sustain and fights.
Okay.
So it was never.
So it wasn't about it being as easy as it was about there was an easy out.
Yes.
So even if it was hard, there was an easy out. Okay.
Right. So
That's
you
fair.
you could get hit 200 times in a battle and you would, you know, if you wanted, you would still succeed.
Right.
Whereas
That's
Stellar Blade was easy overall. It had a couple of
but it didn't have the
checks.
Easy outs is what you're saying.
It didn't have the easy outs. Like a couple of fights, you really just needed to figure out the fight, you know.
That's
which
fair.
is great. Yeah, it worked out pretty well.
Yep, I get that. Yeah, because I thought, I get it. I get what you're saying now. I was a little confused there, but the idea that that a game can be difficult and still offer outs is absolutely real. We talked about this with Alchemy. A lot of people ignore Alchemy in games. Then suddenly you do it and you're like, what the fuck? I beat the game in like an hour. It's like, dude, exactly.
It's like, you have twice the damage if you drink this
they're
potion
leaving
or
a
whatever.
full part of the pyramid off. Like if it's combat and it's like skill use, and then over here is alchemy. If you're ignoring alchemy, you're just going to be falling over the side of it. Yeah. Like you're missing that structural, the sort of the building block of the combat itself. Especially every game I've played that has alchemy. Once I start doing alchemy, I realize that, and I'm like, oh, you know, because I don't love alchemy as a whole. You know, it's usually not the most enjoyable of all the combat skills or abilities. Let's see. Nier had a simple mode with auto that did all the attacks. Ooh, cool. Oh, you mean like a reg mode?
So it had some it had some plugins. You remember how sorry, my camera went blurry. You had like a memory plugin thing where you would, you know, put plugins. One of them or a few of them were like auto attack.
Shit, I forgot something. Yeah, continue.
Go for it. Yeah, or like I think you even had some like take no damage or perfect dodge, automatic dodge, stuff like that, which was cool. That was a cool accessibility option where if you're struggling with the combat, you just want to experience the story. That's a good way to just not have to worry about it. Oh yeah, look at that.
That's the metal print for
Space man. So you have a glass over it, do you?
Dude, that's steel. That's fucking metal.
Oh, wow. That's glossy. That's nice,
man.
It
is the goddamn sweetest. So that people know what... By the way, sorry to change the subject.
No, that's awesome, man.
But so that people know what that is, Johnny and I and a bunch of people in our chat were talking about like displate and stuff. And
yeah.
You know, I think displate's okay, but I think they're overpriced trash. So I guess okay is the opposite of what I just said. I do think that they're overpriced. And so I did something. I had heard people saying Walmart's metal printing service had switched suppliers and that it was local. So I ended up going local with this I found Walmart's display price and I was like, okay, I'm going to get a screenshot. That's a screenshot.
Oh,
so it's like, I'm going to get a screenshot. I'm going to use the UpRaiser or the UpRes software that I showed you, Upscale. I'm going to upscale it. I'm going to clean it if I need to. I'm going to send it to Walmart, and I'm going to investigate. I have the 4K, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to use the 4K to rate it. That's the best print I've ever seen in my life in history.
That's insane. Yeah,
it's. I cannot believe how good it is. I took it, and I have the 4K monitor, and then I have an electro microscope. And so I blew up the JPEG, or not JPEG. You know, once I upscaled it, I definitely went with like bitmap and stuff. But I blew it up on the screen, and I went through this print for probably 3 hours, looking for imperfections, looking for like water blots or ink blots at this point, or looking for something that would be wrong with the screen print. And it is immaculate. And that's a 1080p
pristine
picture that's been upscaled using Upscale.
Yeah,
like
we talked about that software. It's pretty much magical. I'm gonna write the name in chat if people haven't seen it.
Upscale is UP and then scale is SKYLE.
And it's pretty much magic, guys.
Yeah, so I ordered this online at Walmart. No affiliate link kind of bullshit here. If I could, I would, but I don't have one. And you can go small to large. And I'm telling you guys right now, you know, source material is what matters. So I did make sure that I had a good print or a good screenshot, but it was from a 1080p 40 megs per second. Like it certainly wasn't what you would consider to be the best source. Most of the time sources are screenshots that are like, that are paused and they're perfectly done. This was a video that I just liked when he took his hat off, and I printed it out and I was like,
wow.
I uploaded it and I was like, oh, this is a pretty good source pick. And holy
That's awesome.
shit. I'm doing it for Christmas for everybody. My dogs, for my wife, my mom's horse for her. I'm just gonna go with that and just give them a bunch of that shit, because like the ability to have your own art is crazy when you think about it. I mean, that's something that used to be for royals and like multimillionaires, the ability to have something you wanted done artistically. I mean, if you want, you could go AI and do it,
Yeah. And part of why Displate is so expensive too is because they have the licensed, like, prints for a bunch of stuff like shows and everything. So it's nice that you can take whatever you want. And
this is better than Displate, because I have 2 Displates and I think the quality, it's a different style of quality. Displate's got a almost woven in at times kind of look. I don't know how to describe it, but this is way better than Displates. Like to me, it is firmly past it. The part, like you said, the big thing is their art on Displate is very good. Many times they have specialized artists, but I'm telling you, if you want, just use AI. Like at this point, you're not stealing from anybody, because you're not going to be out there paying an artist $500 to make you a painting of whatever you want, Yeah, crazy stuff, man. We live in a futuristic world. Silverhand says, are you guys have OLED monitors? I think he means, do you guys have OLED monitors, right? Do we have? Yes. I have an OLED monitor. I'm not using it right now, but I've got an OLED. You've got an OLED, right?
No, I need to double check. I believe
the Switch is OLED, but not a PC monitor for you.
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't remember if the one I got was OLED. It's a 4K HDR, but quantum. It's an IPS quantum dot panel. I think that's OLED. No,
it's not.
No, it's not. It's not actually. Yeah, so it's not. Yeah. But I think what do you think, like for monitors, we're so close to the monitor compared to a TV often. Do you feel OLED
I mean, OLED is over the top. There's great OLEDs. There's also great micro LEDs. There's great overlapping technology. It's about cost. It's about what you can get in your local area. Yeah. I'm not as big of a, you're not going to hear me flate an OLED very often, but that's because I used to sell these, and there's a lot of shit that people lie to you about. And they'll be like, OLED's much better in every way or whatever. And especially when you look at auto brightening, just one thing, for instance, or auto dimming in this case, that disturbs me is some TVs, in particular with OLEDs, they'll auto dim if you have a lot of white on the screen. Well, guess what's a lot of white? Windows.
Oh,
so if you use it as a monitor, and if you're like me who notices that, if you're somebody who's just oblivious to everything, my question would be, why are you worried about which is better? If you're oblivious to everything, then why, because I'll say that kind of stuff and they'll be like, oh, I don't notice it. I'm oblivious to it. And I'll be like, well, if you're oblivious to everything, why are we having this discussion then? Seems a little bit weird. Seems a little questionable. But as somebody who's sold these, there's many different choices, and I'm definitely not a fillator of OLED at all. I think there's a huge number of problems that you can have on both. Oh, for Switch?
Like Steam. Well, yeah. Well, I don't have the Switch, but my Steam Deck looks fantastic. The OLED compared to the Switch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think the other thing is brightness. Depending on the brightness, what OLED slash any of the other techs that you have, because sometimes, especially for a year or two ago, the OLED would be quite dim, and so if you go outside, you might have a problem depending on if you have a handheld, what have you. But now they're definitely fixing that. Also depends on if you have bright rooms, but also that could depend because you might have 3 TVs with 3 different levels of sheen to them. Yeah. You might have something that is somewhat dusky, and so therefore the shine doesn't affect you, which is great, but maybe it's not as bright because that covering that they can do on screens doesn't really have any direct connection to the OLED brightness, but it does, because if you get a reflection or what have you, then that'll override what you're seeing. So there's all these little idiosyncrasies. I always tell people, wherever you buy it, man, get a good return. Get a good return. Because you got companies who lie. We used to have to deal with it all the time where we would refuse to cover or carry a TV because they'd be like, I got 480 frames per second or refresh rate, or 480, refresh rate. And be like, no, you don't. You sure don't. You're absolutely lying.
Yeah.
And then you'd find out that they were one of the companies who would just bloat up their fake interpolation rate. And you're like, all right, you're out. You can't be in. Like, we don't want anything to do with your company. If you're going to lie, we don't want you. We'd rather have the companies that maybe a little bit more expensive or maybe don't have as many offerings if they're truthful. Because do you know who pays for that? Not that company. The people who sell the fucking TVs have to live with the bullshit of a customer coming in going, you know, I read on our things that this doesn't have and, you know, so we were always just like, fuck it, let's just be as honest as humanly possible. And that way, you know, whatever happens. It's like you knew what you were getting, kind of thing. Let's see. Sailor says, that's kind of me with 30 and FPS or 30 and 60 FPS. I'll be honest, I don't notice a difference. Maybe so used to playing 30. Don't worry. It's probably uncomfortable to say, but you are not alone. I think you notice it, but I have a lot of friends with quick refractory periods where they can play a 60 and go to 30 and they don't mind. Just
It really depends on the game.
And then other people it does
as well.
Sometimes I don't think it always does. I think it depends on the person. I think that some people are very quick at switching.
Yeah, that's true.
They're just
But
you know.
I've had some jarring experiences where some games worked amazing in 30. Ghost of Tsushima was great in 30. I played through most of it in the PS4. And then I tried Horizon Forbidden West in the 30 FPS mode, and that felt really sluggish and bad.
Yeah.
And I needed to go to the performance mode for that. So I think it depends. I don't know if it's the delivery of the frames like you talk about sometimes, or just in practice. It's not all the same, you know?
Yeah. Ken says, I've not seen any other current technology match the blacks of an OLED. Yeah, well, the blacks of an OLED aren't black. They're literally nothing. I mean, black you could say is nothing, but there's just no power to it.
Right, it's like turned off. Yeah.
The problem is unless you live in a pitch black room, the blacks of an OLED aren't actually black either, because any reflection on the OLED is in some way raising it. So if you considered a screen that is jet black in a jet black room being 0, if you have even the smallest light, that is no longer a 0. There's some number to it. And so what you get is a fakery that goes around where people are like, the perfect blacks of OLED. You know, they're out there like, wheel out your dead, give us your shitty TVs. Everything is beat by the OLED. And you're like, no, it's not. Especially when you look at how people normally watch TVs. And so you have to then identify as somebody got a screen, they got a reflection, they got blah, blah, blah. I mean, this is something I've been doing for 20 years. One of the reasons I left it, though, was because the arguments in TVs make the arguments in gaming feel like a close cousin. They're just too close, man. Just too close. Just furiously masturbating themselves over technology. And it comes to that point where you just get really tired of dealing with it. What I don't get tired of dealing with, though, is good games. I played... So this week, I finished up some Space Marine 2. And then I decided I was going to jump into Outer Worlds, of all things, and play it on the Legion. Played a little on the Legion. And it dawned on me, I am excited for Avowed, man. But I'm slightly more excited for Outer Worlds 2. I think a space game, I don't know, man. Space games get me in a certain way. I'm also excited for Shattered Space, dude. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be good, but I actually want to play Shattered Space and see what their idea is. You know, it's supposed to be one planet, right? One planet, all their shit in one planet. Like, seems interesting.
It could be great. Yeah. With Outer Worlds, why do you think you return to it? Because we said, you know, we don't return to a ton of games. Why do you think that one?
Because the sense of discovery may not be what we all pretend every other game has, right? You always get the people being like, the sense of discovery is terrible. And you're like, okay, list me 10 games that are better and that do it, you know, and then they start to lose their they're cool, but it's still pretty good. There's, I don't like the repeated POIs, but there's something about being able to like land on a planet and pretty much know that wherever you go, there's going to be something to look at. And people say it's the same. They're absolutely right. There are parts that are the same, but just like any game where there's the same, there's also combat that's fun if you like the combat, right? So you get this weird overlap. And you know me, I'm pretty aware of what a game's going to offer. I don't lose too much sleep since No Man's Sky. I think No Man's Sky was the last game for me to have such a gulf between what they offered, their complete utter. Well, Cyberpunk and them both lied.
Cyberpunk.
Like, yeah, so Cyberpunk and No Man's Sky are both, like, both of those companies are top tier grifters. Like, I don't trust anybody there. I don't want to ever deal with them, but I will play their games. And I will like their games, and I'll give them positivity towards their games now, for sure. No Man's Sky, the difference between what I got and what I expected was very wide. With Starfield, it was there, but it wasn't as wide, so it's a little bit easier to go back to. It's also a good podcast game, You turn on a podcast and you just sort of go, because I've experienced the story.
Run around.
Yeah. And I get everybody's, I get everybody's realistic complaints about it. I don't get, if somebody's going to pretend that something, isn't in there that they never said was going to be in there, that's bothersome. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I want to see what their idea is, because here's the thing about it. So I think you could say Assassin's Creed has some of the best DLC, and they continue to do good DLC. Bethesda is also like that. If whatever complaints people have towards Bethesda, I think for the majority of Bethesda games, you could say their DLC is good. And has offered some pretty spectacular side stories. So I think that's why I'm like, there's a fascination with me that a company can offer DLC for Fallout 4, where Fallout 4 wasn't necessarily lauded, but Far Harbor is considered one of the best DLCs ever. And that's not the only time that's happened with them in particular. And I'm really excited to see what do we get out of Shattered Space? Do we get a DLC that's in the vein of Shivering Isles? Do we get a DLC that's in the vein of Far Harbor? Yeah, wow. That would be like, you know what I mean? Like, that would be great, and it would be cool. It would also be depressing. It would be awesome. It would be a little bothersome, but I hope that's what happens. That'd be it would be
I hope so.
It would be really cool. Yeah, just
I love the idea of a contained
world,
like planet or world where everything kind of like makes sense.
Who's your favorite character in Star? If you hated them all, by all means say you hated them all, but who was your favorite party member in Starfield?
I didn't have anyone that I loved. I liked elements of many of them, though. I liked Sarah a lot in the beginning, and then she got pretty tiresome. I think Andrea was pretty cool. There were some things that didn't quite make sense. Like some dissonance between how she reacts to stuff that I do versus stuff that she's done. That, in my opinion, doesn't make a lot of sense. But overall, I like her character, and it was fun to interact with her a lot. Yeah, I think in general, none stuck with me as like a, forever gonna remember. But I like those two overall.
Straight up, no lie. I personally feel that some of the double A NPCs in Starfield are better than the mains. There's a couple people, the one guy that mimics Sam Coe a little bit. He's the guy, I think he's the burn victim, if I remember right. I thought that guy was awesome. And then there's a Afrikaan, it's almost an Afrikaan kind of accent. There were two. Mateo was the other one, but there's another guy there that has a slightly different accent. And I'm telling you, dude, I am stunned that somebody at Bethesda didn't hear and see those storylines and go, whoa, what are we doing? Like, we're really going to have Sarah or Crowded House, whatever the fuck his name is, the dude with spiky hair that runs around after you, that he looks like a lead singer of a 1980s band, Ultimate Fan or whatever. we're going to have that guy in there, but we're not going to have one or two of these guys because those side AA story characters were pretty good. And I was stunned to see that we sort of had the same Gennaros that we could have.
Yeah.
So maybe in this one we'll get some good ones. Anybody else like the AAs that we're talking about in Starfield right now? I wish I could remember. I'm just going to look them up.
Yeah, there were some good ones. I like the corporate lady in Neon, in the planet Neon, where there's a corporal ladder quest line where you go in, you do a bunch of corporal jobs, and I got into that. I did a bunch, and it was really fun. And it was fun to interact with her, and then you had to make some tough decisions, like, do you trust her? Do you try to throw her under the bus? This type of stuff. That was cool.
So here we go with the characters on the side that I liked. First of all, I want to look up this guy. So I definitely liked Omari Hansen. He's the guy who he's got a son, or he's got a daughter and wife living in town. Talks about him all the time. Really enjoyed him. Side character. You take him with you. All these guys I'm talking about, you take with you. But he doesn't have that. Every single thing that you do, he talks about kind of situation. The other, I believe, is Ezekiel. I'm looking here to verify why I can't remember what his initial. Yep, Ezekiel. So Ezekiel, cowboy hat, looks a little like Ko. Ko is his name, the main guy. Isn't that his? Not Ko Carnage, so everybody knows. Sam Ko, just like Sam Ko.
Yeah, Sam.
And he's a burn victim, and he's got a pretty insanely good story about how he got the burns, and an insanely cool story that ties up some family stuff. Those guys were really well done, and I really wish that Bethesda had seen those and said, we're almost there with their full stories. Why don't we just add them? Why don't we have them be a bigger thing? Because I'll tell you what, Sarah is in my team for sure. I don't know exactly where she is because I play a couple different games. Andraj or whatever, she's in my team, but she's in my team because she's got a pretty big history. I mean, there's a reason why it's going to be in the sequel. So I have her. And then I don't know where Sam is. He's probably back at his house. The daughter hung around way too long to be comfortable in my ship.
And I would send her away. I literally exiled Sam. So his daughter would not be around.
And she was still around
to a moon. She was still around.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of a fight, and all of a sudden she appeared talking to me about books. Girl.
Yeah, that was a weird one. Let's see. RDR, I was asking people what their favorite DLC is. I'm sure they're just going to diss on each other's games. So I'm going to ignore anybody who's doing that because I didn't ask for that. So deal with it. Suck it. Let's see. Here we go. Yep, somebody's already bitching. All right. Citadel DLC for Mass Effect 3. Citadel DLC for Mass Effect 3. Dude, you know what? Not bad. Not bad. It's good. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zab says, I don't know if Lord of Destruction counts, but it was made, it's what made Diablo 2 so foundational for me. I would absolutely agree. Lord of Destruction was not only something I didn't play much of, but that I noticed immediately when that was used in replace of the main game name after a while, which is XCOM, War of the Chosen.
XCOM 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Nobody ever, in the history of ever after that game came out, did anybody use XCOM 2 to mean anything other than with War of the Chosen. Let's see. RDR Undead Nightmare and Bloodborne Old Hunters. Interesting. I've never heard that.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Enkidu says, people are going to give me flack, but Dawn of Ragnarok for AC Valhalla is an amazing DLC. Dude, I won't give you flack because most people haven't played it. They can fuck off. I have played it. It is phenomenal DLC. As is usual for AC games, for the most part, it is insanely good and adds a whole new style, feel, and mode to AC. So, no, if they give you flack, tell them to come to me. I'll punch them in the dick. Zanko says the Bethesda DLCs were amazing, but I used to play so much Masu games. Oh, the I'm pronouncing that wrong. The Samurai Warriors 2 games. Was there DLC for those?
I'm not aware.
Yeah, I don't know.
There was.
I think he just really wanted to say that he liked Samurai Warriors 2 style games, so he pretended to be talking about the DLC. Yeah, I like it. I like it. You know what?
We'll take it.
Good game. Yeah. Good game. I love that. I was like, what's going on? Oh, I think he just wanted to just get in there. That's fine with me, man. Frozen Wilds for Zero Dawn. That's such a good one. Frozen Wilds for Zero Dawn is definitely worth it. That was such a surprise. In Burning Shores, right, was the other one?
Yep.
Dude, they do. It's funny because you would think Frozen Wilds and Burning Shores would really have a big environmental connection, and that was almost done on purpose. Like the DLC for the first game is snow, the DLC for the second game is deserts. That's not what really happened, and I think both are still amazing. But I do think number one was amazinger. I think the snow, introducing the plot line and the extension of the plot line in number one, they pushed that game a lot too. The game was right at the raggedy edge of being like, holy shit, what more can you do on an X or a PlayStation? You know, God damn, those were good. Let's see, Shadow of the Erd Tree. Yes, Kobsy says the title is amazing, made me laugh out loud. Thanks for all you guys. Thanks for all you guys do. The title of what? Oh, the podcast.
Blah, blah, blah stuff happened.
I just said fuck it, man. Who cares? But I appreciate it. Blood and Wine is goated. Yeah, that's true. Is that Oregon Fresh? Why does that sound familiar? Oh, it used to be in the Discord. Yeah. Dane Cap, Death of the Outsider. Mike Sue says Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 what? Do you mean the Mass Effect 2 DLC, or are you asking a question? Mass Effect. If you do mean Mass Effect 2 DLC, remind me on the name of some of them. Mass Effect 2 DLC.
Yeah, I get them all mixed up.
I think I do too. I think I'm not going to. Wait.
I think the only one I played was the Citadel one for DLC.
For number 3? Or wait a minute. Man,
or was that
dude.
2? See, I don't know.
Yeah, they're starting to run together now. That's how you know a game's been a while. When I was sitting here going, so there's the one with Liera or whatever being
they're saying Shadow Broker.
Shadow Broker. That's what I'm talking. That's the one I'm talking about.
I did play that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha. There we go. Death of the Outsider and Dishonored. Let's see. Death of the Outsider was great. Not a DLC, but an actual expansion. Or a side-along story, I guess, sort of like Blood Dragon for Far Cry, and yeah, it was great. Sailor says, I enjoyed AC Odyssey DLC. Prey Moon Crash is also on there. Witcher 3, Blood and Wine, of course. Fallout 3, Operation Anchorage DLC. Interesting. I'm glad you mentioned it, because I was going to say I hated that, and I didn't want us to I was going to make a joke about that not being a good DLC, but I'm going to admit that I think it just didn't work for me, because I remembered and that's why I didn't say it, because I do remember a conversation I had with some friends, and they could not stop talking about the Anchorage DLC. I just don't know what it was. This is way before your time, right? Like Fallout 3 DLC. Yeah. So I won't even continue talking about it, but it's interesting he mentioned it, because I almost dropped a one-liner on that game. And I was like, no, I think I'll sit back, and it's cool to see it mentioned. It's just one of those ones that didn't hit for me, I guess. BioShock Infinite DLC, Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Ooh, that's a good one. Another vote for God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. Dude, I appreciate you guys. Even if we know companies do something stupid, I appreciate people bringing up positivity around some of those. Returnal Ascension, Horizon Burning Shores, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree, and Neo 2. Yeah, Neo 2.
Oh, dude, yeah. The DLC was really good.
Yeah.
In that.
Come on. Neo 2 could have released a fucking sweaty cod sack weapon where that was just on the end of a stick, and I probably would have thought it was still one of the best deals. Dude, that game, that is a good game, and it's so funny to hear so many people having not played it. It's just like, damn.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit intimidating, to be honest. But
I mean, it is, but not to a Dark Souls, not to somebody who's played any of those games, I don't think, because it fits right in line. In fact, I would say it's easier than, it plays differently than Bloodborne. I would say for many people, it might feel easier.
It plays different. Yeah, it's very different, but I mean, the thing with that game though is you had so many things to consider, to think about. So you had like a bunch of talismans you could activate before a fight, and it got to a point where before a boss fight you would have to activate like 4 or 5 different things, and those are like interacting with each other, and then you needed to do the combo and transform. It's just a lot more stuff. Neo 2.
Really?
It was a lot more stuff than like Dark Souls. You go into a boss fight, and the only thing I think of is like pressing R1.
Bro, like, pretty sure that's how I played Neo. Because I
had so many like
you had like
stuff I could activate,
things you could
like
activate.
Yeah.
Stuff. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
man.
I get what you're saying. It's funny because I realized as you were continuing, I thought you were talking about Bloodborne, which I haven't played a bunch of. So I just let you continue going, and then I was like, hey, wait a minute. I think he might be talking about Neo 2. Yeah, I didn't have that. I haven't gone back in a while. But I did see one of our Discord patrons last weekend was playing it in there. But he was early. So he could have not had a bunch of stuff. Yeah. It definitely, there were times where that game was definitely a bit difficult.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Shadow Liberty, or Phantom Liberty, was solid. Yeah, Phantom Liberty was just such a great restart to that game, I think. Beast by Nature, $5 super chat. What game has done food graphics the best? The Resident Evil truck driver scene had an awesome looking burger. I know that burger. Dude. It was so good looking, but it looked gross at the same time.
Yeah, it did.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
15? Like the one with the
Absolutely.
with the, guys,
with the boy bands?
Trip.
Yep.
A new recipe, and it was always amazing.
A new recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I don't like any fish. I don't like any seafood. They had a lot of seafood stuff in there.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of prior to being scarred for life and liking seafood a little bit.
But a lot of it was like noodles based, and it looked fantastic. So.
Dude, yeah, and they that's the thing, man. It's so funny because you could say it's a wasted, time or resource or whatever doing that. And, there's some arguments for it, against it, whatever. But I love how much they care. And the same thing happens with Monster Hunter, where like you'll go in and do a cooking moment or something like that. And, they've got cats bouncing around and dancing and chopping up things with swords. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? The game that really surprised me in how poorly it was done or didn't interest me, didn't excite me, was really questionable, was Outlaws. So there's a lot in Star Wars Outlaws I liked, but there were these food moments where you would feed Nyx, and it was a long mini game, way longer than it should have been. I remember going, okay, I did that one. Whoa, there's another part of mini game? Okay, interesting. I did that. There's another part? And you did like 4 parts to a mini game before Nyx finally ate a fly. And you're like, that was a lot of work. That was a lot of work for nothing.
Yeah.
GTA Lost in the Damned. GTA Lost in the Damned is technically its own standalone, but I'm going to let it stand just because I like it, and I'm changing the rules right now. GTA Lost in the Damned was fucking phenomenal. Zab says, I like 6 to 7 Stellaris DLCs. Stellaris is great. I mean, the one thing is 99% of their DLCs add a ton, and then they do have the 1 or 2% that are balls, but... They do. They like most of their DLC will be great, and then there'll be that one DLC that's like, we've added a toga for your character, we've added 5 names for nations, but stuff that's just so generic and so useless. And then the very next one will be this amazing thing. It's weird. Shrek says Nior does the best food graphics. It's a 3D physics-based game about playing with the plate on your food. Oh, I don't think he was talking about specifically full games, but there we go. He's got a full game idea. It's called Nior. Best food graphics, 3D physics-based game about playing with the plate on your food. I think he means playing with the food on your plate. It's got the level of physics and interactivity as Interactive Buddy, an old Flash game. It's got the level of physics and interactivity as Interactive Buddy, an old Flash game. I don't know what that means.
So if he's saying that's an old Flash game he's talking about, I'm going to be very skeptical about how good the food looks if it's an old Flash game.
Yeah, yeah, it's got some. I'm reading
we'll
it
let
like
it slide. We'll let it slide, Shrek.
Yeah, I don't really understand what he's saying, but that's because I do the same thing in Discord where I write something quick. It's got the level of physics and interactivity. I think it means it's got the same level of physics and interactivity as Interactive Buddy, which is an old Flash game. That's a lot of me changing what he wrote, but I think that it's almost not what he wrote, but I think that's what it is. Did you freeze, Johnny? Johnny froze. Johnny's just completely frozen, or Johnny did it on purpose, which is even better. We'll get him back. Anyway, moving on from there. Johnny, if you can hear me, give me a call back. We'll just let Johnny call us back. There he is. Johnny's back. Nope. Now Johnny's gone. Now Johnny's back. That was awesome, dude.
I had a little blip there. Yeah, nice.
It looked like you were fully agreeing. You were like, and then it just went, and it stopped, and I let you go for a while, and I was like, wait a minute, he's not saying anything. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I think we figured out what he said. And then Jay Reaper says Dragon's Dogma had the real food footage. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Dragon's Dogma, man.
Yeah, do you remember that
no DLC announced? Weird.
The meat looked differently based on the quality of it? So if you had rotten meat, it actually looked rotten in the FMV.
In Dragon's Dogma?
Dragon's Dogma 2. They had these close-ups of like a big fat steak on the pan.
Way too
right?
fat for me, by the way, too.
Fat, dude.
That was a steak that you see in a 1980s D&D movie that would like cost $2,000 to make. And it was like that thick. I mean, like the ability to cook that correctly, really low.
Impossible.
Really impossible. But yeah, it was great for the movie. It was like those old movies where somebody grabs a chicken leg that's just massive, or a turkey leg, but still very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's go through our list. We also we covered those. Okay. Metaphor demo impressions. We pretty much.
So where do you stand now? Is that a game you would play?
Like again? Metaphor?
Metaphor, would you play it?
I will play it if they give me a review code. I would play it if they give me a review code.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Let's see. Spetsu says, the day before devs, being transparent and making the best game ever. Yeah, I don't really want to get into this because it's really much ado about nothing right now, but the day before devs, which are the ones who ripped they didn't rip everybody off. They tried to do that big. They had that game that they said was going to be amazing. It looked a little like Division and Days Gone, blah, 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 blah. Didn't work out for them, obviously. Wasn't a good game. Got removed from the store. And now they're coming back in some way.
Yeah, I don't think it was like evil intentions. I don't know your take, but it kind of felt like they had a crack and it just wasn't good. They didn't manage to
flesh out
what they wanted
it's
to.
So long ago. The overarching idea is that they were hoping. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe there was enough weird stuff. What it was,
well,
for sure.
I was gonna say that, but then I remember seeing some stuff wasn't even written into the back end of the game. So there was obviously a lot of lies, but it was just. It's like sometimes. I don't know how to describe it, but sometimes when there's a special event and it's sort of done for goofy reasons and you see it, if you go to it expecting something serious, you're like, come on. If you go to it expect something goofy, you might be like, okay, I sort of see what they were trying to do. And that occasionally happens with video games with releases. There'll be something that you look at and you're like, what? And then you sort of understand what they were trying to do. This one is more along the lines of thinking that they were trying to rip people off, but then you try to figure out how they were going to rip people off. Like how did they think it was going to work? So then there's the discussion, were they just dumb and maybe they didn't know that it wasn't going to work? Then there was a discussion also about investors. Did they rip off investors? Dude, I don't know about you. Sometimes I can talk about something maybe twice. And then my brain, we talked about this earlier, where my brain is just like, I'm done. I'm done. Like it
Especially
was what it was.
Since we don't know shit. Like we don't actually
I don't remember
know
anything about it.
What happened. So
I just consider them scammers. That's like sort of my end all be all, is that I think that they were lying scammers, and that's it. And getting further into it is pretty impossible for me. Knucklehead says, currently holed up with no power, getting some really bad weather due to a local hurricane. Picked up my 3DS and booted up Animal Crossing to try and lighten the mood. Do you guys have any games? Do you guys go to any games like this during these times? Obviously, spending time with the family is priority one, but cozy games always help me get through times like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Continue talking. I'm going to let these dogs out. What is a game? I can hear you. You may hear me yell because I'll be standing at the door to call in the one guy. But what's like a game like that for you?
Yeah, a few good ones. Definitely SnowRunner has become a big one. Just taking the trucks, making some deliveries, unlocking some areas, exploring new areas is very enjoyable. We talked about it already. There's something really compelling about that one. Satisfactory is one that I've been doing recently, and those types of games are really therapeutic for me as well. When there isn't, I'm not getting invaded by aliens or anything. I can take my time and create some pipelines and try to make them more efficient, that type of stuff. So I would say for me, those are the type of things that I look at for like relaxation. I can listen to a podcast. I can talk with you guys in Discord while that's happening. Those are really the types of games. Yeah, someone is saying Power Wash Simulator. That's a really good one as well. I did quite a bit of power washing myself. And there's something oddly compelling about that one too. You finish one wash, and it's pretty hard to not get started on the next one straight away.
I think it's a little difficult also to understand if he means like Zen game or play when you can't do anything else.
When you can't.
Because those are two totally different games for me. They're not even on the same list.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I wouldn't be able to play a game that requires a lot of bandwidth if I'm going through something, or if
that's exactly where I was. That is exactly what I was thinking. Is like if there was something going on out here, the idea of me diving in.
Yeah. Completely forget, like.
Yeah, it'd be impossible. It'd be.
Do you have like one or two games you go to when you just want to chill out?
This is not to sound like a dick, but I don't know another way to say it, so I'll just sound like a dick. It's the same games I've explained many times. It's the same group of games, so I feel like I'm gonna repeat myself because that's why sometimes I get nervous about these questions. So. Cozy /Zen /relaxing /return to /go back to / they're all the same game.
Yeah.
So whenever we get this question, I'm always trying and searching desperately for some fucking game name of some arbitrary thing, but it's always the same answers. Because
is it like Flight Sim, Forza, where you can jump in?
It's like it's the ones I always talk about. It's like Star Traders or even Starfield or something like that. They're all in the same boat. It's like, how do you get there? It's like, imagine a rescue boat. I don't give a fuck what ship it came from. I care that the rescue boat works. So that rescue boat can come from any of these ships. If they're sinking, who gives a fuck? I don't care what type of ship it was. That's sort of the game for all those games for me are the ships. And there's a group of them, but I end up in the same goddamn rescue boat all the time. Like it's just these same boats. If it's cozy, if it's zen, if it's lack of stress, if it's want to not think, it's all usually the same ones. It's just... And that's why I always feel bad for these, because I don't know any other games to come up with because I don't branch out and I don't add new ones to it. Starfield is sort of there, but it's also not there. Starfield's there if I have the PC, because like, let's say your power's off. I'm not going to be running the PC, so therefore not playing Starfield. You know what I mean? Yep. So some of the games can't even be added to the list. But it's hard, man, because like, this happens all the time. What are your 10 favorite games? And you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah. And there are some that are transitory.
How do I answer
this? I played Dredge for a while, and it was great. That was my chill game for a bit. I'm not really going to return to it. Dave the Diver was fun. Mm-hmm. Similarly, not going to return to it. Not for anything bad. I just, I'm done. Like Balatro, I played so much Balatro to chill as well.
Yeah, you did play a lot of that game.
Yeah, and also, not really a game I would return to. So I think those are also disconnected for me. What's currently, a cozy game that I'm going to, and the game doesn't have to be cozy. For example,
exactly,
like Space Marine 2, I'm chilling. I know that I'm fighting,
even though it's not cozy and even though it's action packed, I can still play that game.
But I was jumping in with you guys and I was chilling. Right,
perfect
that's
example,
my version.
Man.
Yeah, like cozy.
Even more so than like Division, which I play a bunch of. There's something about Space Marine that is a little bit more on that side than Division 2. Even though I've played Division 2 to the ends of the earth, I'm still able a little bit more in Space Marine to sort of play it, relax and play it. Yeah, it's just a weird one because I always feel bad because you want to answer, but once I read it, I was like, oh shit, man, my answer is going to be the same because they don't change. They don't. A lot of categories can be that. So if you list 10 games and you don't tell somebody how you got that category, is it best gaming moms? Is it best gaming weapons? You know what I mean? That list will fit best gaming asses.
Top MILFs.
Top MILFs. Top slam and gilfs. By ACG, the new top 10 list. It's hard to know how they got there. And I think with my games, it would be very difficult to know what caused me to get there because the answer is pretty generic. There's so many different ones. If I'm having an emergency, I'm like you, though, dude. I don't think I can like when we had the power outage, I wasn't playing games. Even if I could play games, I played a little bit, but I had a really hard time, man. Like a really difficult time sitting down and like looking and focusing because I was, your entire world is different right then.
Yeah. Can you really focus on like, this medieval fantasy in metaphor, Fantasio?
Yeah.
Right. Like, hear about this guy's he's
saying he picked up 3DS and booted up Animal Crossing to lighten the mood. So going for that side of the things and just the lightening the mood side of stuff, I definitely do think that there are particular games that aren't relaxing or what have you. But if I wanted, no, there's not. There's shows. See, that's the thing. I don't think there's really comedic games I like. Or games that like have there's not. I'm trying to think if there's a game that like, what would the term be? Cheery or whatever.
I think I know what you mean because you always say you watch comedies that make you feel good before like going to bed or something.
Absolutely, 100%.
To be in like a positive mental space and stuff when you go sleep. I'm trying to think if there are games that do that.
Is there a game, dude? Is there a game that like you can just...
Not on the comedic side, but certainly on the wholesome side. Like I've had a few. I think Dragon Quest, the last Dragon Quest, was it 11?
Okay, that's fair.
That was pretty wholesome. I like to play that before bed because it had great music. Everybody was having a good time and... there was something about that I liked. I agree. Animal Crossing is wholesome as well in that sense.
It is.
So if that works for you, I get that.
I think there's a more active kind of thought process I go through in games versus shows. So with the game, I probably in my brain feel I need to like dive into something. Okay, I'm going to let them in real quick and then I'll be done here. I just realized they were screaming and yelling. But moving on from there. Skydays says, hope you guys and fellas are rosy. Hope you all fellas are rosy. Wondering if any of you had a chance to check out the Forever War, and if so, what are your thoughts? Such a cool atmosphere and dystopian vibe. I'll pop in again in another 6 months. He said that in the other thing too. But have you done Forever Winter?
No, I have not. Let me look up some videos so I can comment over it. So it's early access based on what I'm seeing. Okay. Yeah, I have seen this. I thought it looked pretty interesting, but I am a bit allergic currently to early access stuff. So I'm definitely waiting to see how it pans out. It kind of gave me a little bit of Stalker vibes to some extent.
Yeah. Yeah, Stalker and Division 2 in a way.
Yeah.
So let me tell you about my time with that game. That game is fucking rough. That game is sandpaper on your nuts rough. Yeah. So I asked for it. I asked for a preview code, and they gave it to me. And they had a weird thing I've never seen, or very rarely seen. They wanted to meet with me. And talk a bunch. And I'm like, dude, I'm busy. You guys took 15 or 20 days, which is fine, by the way. That does happen, where you take a while. And I'm like, you guys took a bunch of time. They apologized for it. I was like, it's no worries. It does happen. But I don't have time to add a random meeting to discuss something that is pretty simply a preview. And I was like, I do understand what a preview is. You don't need to worry about me hammering your game. I'm not going to, like, it's not about that. Then I played it, and that game crashed so often.
Damn.
It crashed bad. It had issues with the control, felt really weird. It was one of those games where you couldn't get the mouse sensitivity right no matter what you did. It was either really high, but then almost seemed like it had smoothing on, and then really low, and then seemed like it had acceleration on. So it was like, no matter what I did, I couldn't get it figured out. And then the enemies were pretty blasé. Their idea is generically good, but I don't think they're anywhere near content-wise where they need to be. And so I like the idea. And some of the parts I saw and played, the background idea was really cool. But I feel like they were not trying to get away with just that. I feel like maybe it was more that than what was comprehensively there as actual game to play.
Yeah.
That's what I've taken away from it so far. Let's see. We got a super chat here. It's Brandon Martin, $10 super chat. First of all, thanks for the $10, Brandon. I will make sure to do as much drugs as humanly possible with it and then film myself and put it on YouTube. It'll probably be just me in my underwear doing crank. He says, I got a PC with a Ryzen 7 83DX RTX 4070 Super. Sold my PS5 Series X and everything at GameStop. Got $1,000. I got
that's
tired
a huge return. $1,000? Yeah.
I got tired paying for online $70 games. I'm enjoying the change. Well, good for you, man. I've gone more towards console, but that's funny. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good CPU too. That's what I'm running currently. I've been pretty happy with it. You're not.
Yeah. I got to tell you, man.
Software issues?
Yeah, the AMD chipset is obviously good. Their driver maturity is hammered dick. And I think that Intel has their own issues that's hammered dick. And both those companies are in bad shape in a different way. But I would tell you, I was warned that there was a lot of almost like the Steam Deck bro shit that goes on where a guy will be like, my Steam Deck runs this game at 7,000 FPS at 4K.
It's perfect.
And you're like, dude, yeah, auto fellatio. I knew it was going to happen, but I got it anyway. And we had a lot of people in the Discord who like them but have issues. And so I was prepared for those issues with software-wise, little issues with trying to get games to do exactly what you want, little issues with the drivers. And unfortunately, I have been hit with every fucking absolute one of them.
Wow.
And I don't want to get into Intel right now because Intel's got its own issues, right? And Intel uses a bunch of wattage, and Intel has the issues with the voltage stuff and the overclocking. But I got to tell you, man, I really wish there was a third competitor in there. I really do, because AMD's got a shit ton of issues. They're talking about, look, we're doing this with video cards, we're doing that. There's been issues with the new AMD line where it's sold like dick. It hasn't done well at all.
It's been a terrible launch.
And so what we right now have is the two fattest, loserest pieces of shit, and they're only the ones in the race. And that sucks. It sucks for everybody involved. Both companies are terrible in some way. You know, there's some multiple things that they do that are dog shit, and we're stuck in the middle dealing with both of them. I did like the driver maturity on Intel, but they don't have enough PCI slots or PCI lanes. You know, they have issues. They've always had lower number of those, which I was really excited, in fact, to be able to jump into that. Well, guess what happened? I jumped into it. Lo and behold, even though the motherboard I have, one of the better ones, it's one of the other ones that has issues with USB devices. So you get the USB device turn-off issue that's rampant with people. And you'll always have somebody be like, I have 1,652 USB devices, and it runs on 1 watt, and it runs perfectly. You'll always get people like that. There's always the outliner. But it was bad enough that I saw the posts and shit prior. And I sort of knew what I was walking into. Cyrix needs to come back, man. We need the old Cyrix coming back. We need a, what's the G? They start with a G, and they did video cards. You know who I'm talking about? Docs.
Oh.
They ended with like a. So it was AMD, it was NVIDIA, and it was. Damn it! I can't remember the name. I'm gonna have to look it up. But Matrox. It wasn't a G. It was an M. Matrox. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great, man. Yeah, that'd be awesome. We got a super nagel double the drugs. A1 Nagel says, "Let's do it, man. It's time for drugs." So we'll probably get demonetized. Who knows? I don't know if you can get demonetized.
Well, it's funny because out of everybody who, from the podcast, like between Silver and Abby, well, I don't know about Silver, but like you and I are pretty much like zero
tolerance
drugs, like zero alcohol.
Oh yeah,
I think both you and I just don't do any of that. So.
But I love teasing it, man, because I remember when I first started, because of how energetic I was, people were like, "He's got to be doing drugs." They were listening to me do the metal mud runner. It was like an hour of mud runner, and I was just having a good time. I was just like, "Oh man, this is great," because I love games. So I was doing
that's just the speed.
But it's not only the speed, it's what happens when you have friends who enjoy games. Maybe get outside a little bit and experience that, because people are like, I can't believe it. He's for sure doing drugs. And I'm like, dude, this is me on a slow day. It's not doing drugs. It's actually having a really good time during the one thing that I'm covering, games. You may be unaccustomed to it, but this is what happens when somebody sounds like they have a good time. Chalk it up into the things you haven't discovered, like what it sounds like when a woman has an orgasm. Put those two things together. Go discover them. Moving on from there, I like my PC, but I will admit it can be a pain. I'm afraid of spending too much on a PC and it randomly crashing. All my laptops eventually die. Dude, laptops are hard, man. Got a lot of heat on a laptop, You chug in that thing. You got a really tight space.
And
the heat
it's hard to fix, right? Because sometimes you can't get a replacement to a part.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Yeah, and now you've got Qualcomm. Yeah.
PCs are weird because on one hand, it gives you the nice feeling that because you know how to build it, if something breaks, you know that you can buy a part and, replace it and fix it.
Yeah.
But it's also like there's so many weird random things that can happen, and it's hard to troubleshoot sometimes. So you could be in a position where you don't actually know which component is failing, and it takes you weeks to troubleshoot, and maybe you buy a part and turns out that wasn't the issue. And now you spent more money.
Error code 19-711-1246-QQAB. You have a problem with your exb.dll, and you're like, I have no clue what any of that means. Yeah, that happens a lot. I mean, it is what it is. I think that that with PC in particular, one of the best parts about PC, one of the things that to me personally is the most exciting, is that you can see who the lazy pieces of shit are in life when they can't figure out how to click a second link, like for Epic Store. That's when I know, when I'm like, you like truly
have another
are.
Shortcut.
Yeah, when a person is like, I refuse, or like Silver always jokes. Well, he doesn't joke, but Silver's like, I'm not going to use Ubisoft
He has
Store.
a principle.
Yeah,
like I will not install Epic.
You spend a bunch of money to get your custom PC and then can't figure out how to click a second shortcut link. It's like, damn, son, we're there. I'm just teasing, by the way. Troubleshooted my lady's PC. Kel says, my ladies. He sounds like European royalty. My lady.
Oh, is that innuendo? You're troubleshooting your lady's PC?
That could be.
Private. No, wait, that doesn't work.
I moved the mouse a little bit right and left. And then I rolled the thumbstick. Dude, that all would be really sexual
you
innuendo.
plug and unplug.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it depends. Is it the front port? Is it the back port? You know?
Well, what if you get it like upside down, you know? Like the USB is
Dude, it's always upside down.
It's always
missing the sexual innuendo just for a second.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was putting stuff into the USB fucking bar that I have.
Completely cursed.
And I'm telling you, reality had to have changed place because I looked, gunk, and it's wrong. And I'm like, what the and I bring it back. I look at it, I'm like, what the fuck? And I swear to you, I'm truly not lying to you. I inserted it the same way and it worked that time. I don't know what is going on, but USB.
It's a cursed interface.
It's cursed. It's cursed. And Kendo says, I upgraded my lady's RAM the other day, saw huge gains and improvements. Good for you guys. Good for you guys. Good for all of you.
Good for you.
Good. Yeah. Good on you. Let's see what else. Oh, we got some other stuff here. Let's look. We'll go to Kel. If you could pin down a developer of any one game slated to release in the next 6 months and be certain you'll get a solid answer to one question, what question would you ask? Ooh, that's good. Damn, that's a good question. So, okay, that's a good question. Okay, so you have one developer you can pin down on any game, and you will for sure get the answer that you... Okay, but it has to be a game we already know of, because, like, to me, it would be Splinter Cell. Is a Ubisoft dev. Is Splinter Cell for sure coming? Yes or no? We'd just be done.
That's a good one.
So it's not that. This one has to be a game we know is coming out.
Like GTA 6 would be... But,
I mean...
Yeah, I guess
what would you want to know?
Yeah,
right? Like, what would you want to know?
Is it a GTA
I don't even know
game?
what I would want to know.
Like,
yeah, it's just coming. Yeah. It's like it's coming. It's coming around the bend.
I feel like that about a lot of games. Like it's coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't need to know, and that's what I feel about leaks too. Whenever I see it.
Oh, me too. You know, we used to cover. I mean, I'll still cover them occasionally, but the thing about leaks is, it's just an apology tour. As every jackass leaks the fake stuff and then has to apologize for hours. Oh, I was wrong on this. Oh, what I meant was. It's like whatever. Move away from it. But I think with games, I'm like you, where the same thing happens with games, where I'm like, if I know it's coming out, I'm okay, but
that would actually be my question. Is X coming out? Like you said, you know, if I'm a Splinter Cell fan or if I'm a Final Fantasy fan, it would be like, will we have a Final Fantasy game next year, for example? You know, like Square.
Oregon
Enix.
Fresh says you could ask something about GTA or about Elder Scrolls. So like. You could definitely ask. I think that's a game that I could probably come up with a question.
Yeah, you could ask like, hey, are you going back to more, you know, closed areas instead of open? That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think I could. Sudhath says, to clarify once and for all, 449 is Indian rupees. Okay, yeah, because we always try to figure out what the amount of money is. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Do you think PlayStation will release a standalone handheld console like the PSP at some point? Dude, that's a super good question. So this was part of the big... So I think it was all part of this. We did the super long podcast in the Discord. This is not a pimp for the Discord. I want to explain why I'm saying that even. I'm saying it because... I want to make sure people understand these are not all my thoughts. They're the thoughts of everybody in the Discord, and they were all really good ones. And so some people said stuff that changed my idea. But the thing that popped up was, and this is my belief is Sony thought they were going to annihilate Microsoft to zero by having their system, the PS Portal, VR, and the Pro, which is why we're seeing the Pro sort of launched into the fucking ether like an aborted baby, right? It's just punted into the air. I think a handheld is not on the cards because the Portal, if it got cloud, not only would it overlap, it would make it wouldn't make a ton of sense to do a Portal. To do a portable, because the Portal is already doing 80% of what you would use the portable for, which is handheld, you know, playing those games, because they're not going to do a portable like a Legion. Obviously, they barely have any games. It wouldn't make sense. They wouldn't do a portal like a Legion. Everybody else is doing those, and if it was just for their own games, it wouldn't be very many. So it would be streaming from their own device and cloud, and I don't see why Portal can't do that.
But what if they, similar to the Switch, they make it like a third-party console? So people just like the PlayStation Portable, they like to play their third-party titles on it. I don't know, maybe they like the buttons, or they're just a Sony fan and they want...
But what would it do? Because the Portal already does both things.
But it wouldn't be streaming. It would be native.
But what would it do? It would, if it was native, it would just be it would be a PC. It would be a Legion. It would be a... Yeah.
Do you think... Because look, I think the Portal flopped so hard. It's like, if you toss...
You could toss a baby off of a fucking skyscraper and it would still look better than what the Portal is. And yes, I get it. People say that sold well. It did.
A sausage.
Yeah.
And being tossed into a large hallway. That's the effect that, so no effect, basically, the Portal. I think they're almost sweeping it under the rug, pretending it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe they do release a new portable, just thinking that the Portal is not gonna pretty much, sell anything, and that just flopped. Let's have a crack again.
I don't even know why they would do it, but I say that. What does that fucking mean? Because tomorrow they could do it, right?
They could do it.
I don't think so. I don't see a reason. I see that they could fix the Portal and have it stream, which they haven't done. They could fix the Portal and make it not look like what it is. It was just a piece of shit rip-off Android device. That's all it is. It's got
with
terrible
less
bit
options.
rate. It could be the best thing ever. I really like it. I think it's super comfortable. Super comfortable. Like, it's a controller that's just wider. Like, it's thick.
Yeah.
It works. They fucked that thing, man. If I was behind the scenes on their hardware company, like let's say you're a part of their hardware device group who designs that Portal, I'd be so pissed. I'd be livid that they didn't have cloud on there day one. Imagine having cloud on there. By the way, their own system. That's theirs. It's nobody else's. They couldn't even figure out how to do that. That thing was punted out with a quarter of its function. And so many other issues. It's stunning, man. It's stunning. And we're seeing a lot of these companies make these mistakes. This was another part of the discussion is these companies are making huge mistakes. You hear these people talking about they can't make quick Twitch changes. That's completely incorrect. We just saw 3 in the last two weeks. They can. What we're seeing them make mistakes on is that they are thinking the old status quo works, which is, for example, trying to defeat Microsoft by doing Portal, PSVR, and Pro.
Yeah.
That's not how you defeat them. You defeat them in the way you already were prior. Third person, big action games, blah, 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 plus your other side games. That's what you're known for. And right now they just don't have that, and we're starting to see this ill effect.
Yeah. I would be pissed too if I had worked on the Portal, because I'd be so pissed because they didn't put any weight behind it. Like they don't push it in PR. Yep. I never see it mentioned. And if I had worked my ass off, to make that happen, and all of a sudden it's not being talked about by them, they don't push it. They don't, there's no excitement. Same with PSVR 2. The hardware is actually pretty good. Like, it apparently, I haven't tried it. Apparently it's very comfortable. So
very comfortable.
It's
very comfortable.
Weird to see the disconnect. Like,
it's the most comfortable piece of trash you've ever held in your hand.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I need to go grab a toilet. Grab a toilet
and bring it back.
I'll go to the toilet.
Okay,
I'll be right
grab
back.
it. Bring
I'll
it right
still
back.
hear you.
So. Nah, wait, you can poop while we're. It's fine. You can poop. Just we'll put a sensor bar over your nuts. What's up, everybody? Alejandro, how's it going? Oregon Fresh says, I'll pimp the Discord, support the dogs. Why aren't you in there anyway? I think you're in there, aren't you? Or am I thinking of somebody else? I thought Oregon Fresh was in there. Sailor says, the Portal lost me when I found out it's streaming only. Future Sequence says, I use the Portal because it frees up my TV so I could dual screen with the phone triple screen for guides and trophies. Cool. You can also do it with a super cheap tablet, but I absolutely understand where you're coming from 100%. A Negel says, I wanted it to succeed, but the stuttering for bitrate was unbearable. Yeah, I have it hooked up to pretty much the fastest network you could possibly get, set up just for it, tightened down to just that device, and it's sort of still dog shit. But it is comfortable as hell. It is exactly what I want from a tablet. So that people understand why that is the one thing no one else does. Every fucking piece of shit tablet, let me show you what I mean. Every piece of shit handheld device. I love my Legion. It's actually quite enjoyable. And it's not made by a completely corrupt, terrible company like Asus and anybody who supports them. But the Legion, fairly comfortable, right? And fairly good back end. The problem with the Legion that all these tablet devices do is they sort of do this thing where they're like, they make it feel like it's a tablet by straightening its sides in the control scheme part. And that's what, for example, this does. But what happens on the Portal is that it is quite literally just a PS5 controller, which means that the slight angle that you're able to play and hold that with helps it dramatically in the comfort department. And so all you really have is this controller with the screen in it. And I'm going to tell you guys, I think most people want that. The reason why they're straight, the reason why so many tablets do the straight edges is because in their brains, they're thinking phone, but with controllers. How do I know that? Because they've talked about it. We've seen that talked about even Nintendo Switch. We've seen it on almost all these devices where they're really thinking of a tablet as if it's sort of a phone with sticks at each end. That's not what I think most of us want as a temporary handheld device. What we want is a controller with a screen in the center. So let me give you an example so that you guys can understand why I'm bitching so much. Oh my God. All right. So just so everybody knows that I wasn't lying. So we were talking about the PlayStation stuff, and I said that my issue with the PlayStation was so bad, the Portal was so bad, that I had it covered in dust. Look at that. That, my friends, is my Portal. That is my Portal right now. That's how dusty this piece of shit is. It's interesting, too, because it's pretty easy to see the difference right away. That is a controller with a screen in the center. That is quite literally what a handheld gaming device should be. This is not a phone in any way, shape, or form. I'm not going to wipe this off. There's cobweb on there. Is that cobweb? Yeah. That right there is what I want from a handheld device if it does what it's supposed to do. A handheld gaming device. It feels like a controller. It feels exactly the way it should, and it's angled slightly the way the human hand is, because most of us don't play our systems like this. So that you can get an idea of. But then if you look at the G Deck, a device I like most often play, that is pretty straight. Still has some concave, still got a little bit on the side. This one, as you can tell, cleaner because I just played it yesterday. Still got the little screen tab on it. You can see the blue. This one is more uncomfortable because for the most part, those edges are still straight down, and it's got less of a bump here, which is because it's sealed. If you look at that, it's one box, and then here you have the flang, you have the opening. And by the way, Johnny, that's how little I use my Portal.
Dude, that's crazy.
But I was telling them the difference between the Portal is a controller with a screen in the middle, and these are the opposite. They're a screen with sticks at each end. And that's the reason why they're uncomfortable. And until a developer really, and I think Legion did a pretty good job, pretty good, not perfect, pretty good job coming together with something that fits man hands. That's the other thing. These controllers are fairly man-handable. They feel somewhat sizable in your hands. You start getting the G Deck or you start getting the Switch, it starts getting uncomfortable. And at some point, man, we're going to see this. Like, yeah, hit F to pay respects. No, I'm not lying, man. people were teasing me. They were like, there's no way there's no way it's covered in dust. And I'm like, it's not only covered in fucking dust, it's behind my computer, which is where I just went and got it because I knew it was down there. And now my hands are.
Oh my God.
Listen, man, these companies are going to have to smarten up. Go ahead.
That all of these have the same, frame, which is like a Switch, where you have the joysticks on a tablet-like.
And the reason why the Switch worked is because not only, is it Nintendo, which is fair, their battery life is still better than most handhelds for the most part. It's not terrible, not great, but it's still a little bit better. And they have some other bonuses as well. They got an OS that's pretty sleek. They're just their own thing. It all just sort of works. The more you try to add to it, the more you still have to bring in the fan that you're trying to get in. You can't just say it's super powerful, but it's a piece of dog shit or it's super expensive, because a fan will go, that's great, but you'll get a smaller niche of fans who are going to spin something being uncomfortable. How often do you have somebody say that in the general public? They don't. That's a movie. That is a race car mentality. I'm going to buy something uncomfortable that is expensive. That's a race car mentality. I would like the handhelds to get out of the race car mentality and get into honestly, the mentality of a normal consumer product, like a 4-door sedan or something like that of the handheld department, because you still get some sporty utility from it, but it's comfortable and it makes sense in the long run. And the Portal does not. If the Portal switched and had streaming from the cloud, it would be immensely better. Would it be perfect? No, it would not, but it would be immensely better. If they up their bit rate, immensely better. But they don't. And I feel like we're never
gonna. No, probably not.
Apelesh says, what is the best handheld for a long toilet session? Switch. If you talk about true comfort, the Switch is a little hard for me because it's so tight it's so straight on the edges. So Legion is the most comfortable because it's got hand size controllers. Sorry for the tape, but my finger is fucking killing me.
But by the way, we shouldn't encourage long toilet sessions. That's a hemorrhoids risk right there.
Yeah, like Reg and I always joke around. Done. Get your business done, man. In fact, don't bring in anything. Don't.
No.
In and out, right? Just like your poop. In and out. You should eat. You should pass that stuff. If it's sitting around for a couple weeks, go to the doctor.
And also, if you have trouble, like being with yourself in silence for 5 minutes, whatever it takes you to do your thing, you have bigger issues. Well, work on your.
I think the best thing is just, dude, even going into the bathroom and the wall, the sound, the white, because usually most bathrooms lack a great deal of really detailed mosaic stuff, unless you're a millionaire or you're some Saudi sheik and you got your gold inlaid toilet seat, whatever.
Yeah.
But a normal place, there's such a nice feeling of being in this mundane, just sort of flat area. And when I told you this just recently, that when I'm thinking of a game and I'm having a hard time describing it, I got to look at a white wall, look at something that doesn't have a bunch of detail, and just sort of, it lets your mind do its own thing. The static goes away. All the different 3D dimensional shit your brain is trying to figure out, because it's trying to warn you, don't hit the tablet. Don't hit your pop in front of you. It's trying to warn you of all the clutter. You go into a shitter, nothing. The only clutter is coming out your poo hole. The rest of it, clean. Is just you doing your business and maybe coming up with some good ideas. So if you guys are having a hard time coming up with ideas, go to the shitter. Who knows? It might work.
Don't bring your Switch in there.
Don't bring your Switch in there. Come on. Not only that, dude, if I went over to Johnny's house, like let's say I visited Johnny and I knew he went to the shitter with his Switch and he's like, hey, man, let me show you this game. I would punch that dude. I would be so mad. That thing is, dude, we've seen the reports of like toilet brushes that are in the, the Mythbusters where like these things are covered in poo-poo. The idea.
I know what you've done. Don't, you're not fooling anybody.
They're like, hey, guess what? I hacked this so I can go to the internet on my Switch as well as play games. I'm like, Pornhub, just don't even come near me with that weapon of biological destruction, because that thing could impregnate somebody, I bet. Like, stay away from me. Stay with me. Moving on from there. First of all, thanks to everybody who asked questions. Those are some great questions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, if you want poop advice, come to us for sure. Asking questions. Insomniac of Caffeine, $49.99 super chat. Thanks for the podcast. Thank you very much. We absolutely appreciate it. Thanks for being a fan, man. Hopefully,
excellent.
We help you get through your Friday a little bit, especially because just Johnny and I know shit's going to go sideways anyway. So I embraced that right at the starting. I was like, instead of trying to stay on subject, let's just
I think we've done pretty good so far. When we get to this point, we always let our hair down a bit more, but
we do. My back hair. Yeah, for sure. Oh, remember what we talked about? I sort of want you to do it, so I don't want to say. Do you know what I'm talking about when I said we should fool everybody? Do you remember the discussion?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, we should. That would be amazing to do that in a podcast because no one would know what the fuck was going on. Surprise Silver. Silver shows up and it's like Silver just look at you and go, wait, what?
Yeah.
Shrek says, how do you guys feel about other people's phones then, since so many people use them on the toilet? I mean, listen, I'll use somebody's phone if in an emergency, but my brain always tells me somebody's definitely got poo on it.
Oh, yeah. And all other, body fluids.
Yeah. When I use the restroom at somebody's house, I'm not licking their toilet seat either. Like, you just go in, you try to hover a little bit, take care of your business. If you have to poop, I usually don't. I don't want to go at somebody else's house, and then I'm out.
FYI. And also, by the way, thanks for the $50, man.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, that was super nice of him.
But regardless of how close we are as friends, I'm not touching your phone.
Yeah, I would need it. That's why I said if I needed you, if I had an emergency, I'd use your phone, no hesitation. But I'd still be going
if my
911.
mom is in the hospital.
My family member's having a heart attack right now, and I'm really close to Johnny's poop. So can we hurry this up? I'd be like, listen, I can smell the feces on this phone. I'm just joking. That's life. We're humans. We're pretty dirty.
Also, you never know if they were looking at some uncouth stuff. I don't want to, open up your.
It's funny because I was talking to Solar a couple days ago. Solar, you just don't know. You just don't know with Solar what you're going to get in that Discord. You just don't know if he's going to be in alignment or if he is going to be out there. And we were talking about stuff, and he likes to listen to people eat on YouTube. And I was like, dude, that is the grossest thing. That is so gross to me. Like, he searches out videos where somebody eats and the sound of them eating. So it's like you get two sides to every group and every what people like.
That's a mukbang, isn't it? I think that's what's called.
Yeah, which I honestly just thought a mukbang was probably.
Yeah, it sounds pretty sexual, but
I mean, I can tell you what I thought it was, because if you know what muck is, and you know what a bang is, when he said mukbang, my brain was like, I know exactly what that is. And then he goes, and then he was like, it's a food thing. And I was like, oh shit,
food thing.
Because those two things put together.
But to be honest, it's usually a hot girl doing it, and you have the sounds. It's kind of ASMR, so you have the sounds of eating with it as well. So I don't discard that it has a certain sexual, fetish element to it.
You know what's interesting is the look of something doesn't help or hinder if something makes me sick or bothered. So if it was a hot girl, it could look great. If it still sounded disgusting, the sound, I'm an audio guy, the sound matters much more. And I would be, for example, let me explain it this way. Mike Tyson, the first time you heard him talk, right? And he's like, I'm the best fighter I ever lived. You'd be like, whoa, what the? That same thing is if like a supermodel or a very handsome guy talks and their voice does not connect with the visuals. A mukbang to me is just, it wouldn't work anyway. I would see it, I would hear it, and I'd be like, I'm out. But yeah, it was funny because Solar was talking about him, and I knew that they were a thing, but I didn't know there was a term. But there's a term for everything, right? People have to term it to. But
it is funny how you never see a dude doing it. Like I think exclusively.
I think the only time I have is the guy who came back to YouTube after a year because he had lost all the weight. He was super obese and he had done YouTube
Okay.
Those videos for like, I think a couple years. He left and he came back about a month, maybe 2 weeks ago, a month ago. And I think that's where the conversation began, by the way, just so you know, was that one guy. But I would say for the most part, guys are probably aiming towards the, or people probably aim towards the pretty person
for sure
on each side versus an ugly person. Raspberry, $5 super chat. Hey guys, love the podcast. Quick question. What is your guys' favorite tutorial in video games? Ooh, tutorial.
Great question. We've had some terrible tutorialization in games, but it's hard to think of really good ones.
Okay, straight up best one so far that I can remember off the top of my head. No fucking hesitation, Age of Wonders 4. That's the new RTS that came out in the last year, or sorry, turn-based.
Yeah, you and Nabsy talked a lot about it.
Dude, it's got nested tutorials. They pop in, they stick. If you want them to stick, you can move between them, and you can move between them, and the other one will stay up. So if you have one pop up and it's got a super link to it, and you click it, that pops up, but leaves the old one there, which I cannot tell you. Here's why that's good. Most games, if they don't, and you hit the back button, guess where it goes? Back to 0. Yeah. So you lose the 7 steps that took you to that spot. So if you have 7 technologies, you click it, and that closes, and you get a new one, and you hit back, boom, you've lost everything. This game is like, we will leave everything up you left up, and you may have to hit B to get back a bunch of times, but it's there, and it makes that game slick as shit. And if anybody likes turn-based and you haven't played Age of Wonders, you are a fucking terrible person, because that game is sweet, so good. Anybody else in chat? What's a good tutorial for you guys? Do you have a good tutorial for you? Something that you've enjoyed?
It's a good question. I like the ones that don't need a tutorial, in a way where you can kind of
absolutely,
figure it out by playing. I thought Wukong was pretty intuitive. Like you could figure out the game pretty well without a ton of
And it popped up when it needed to pop up.
Right.
It popped up when it needed to. Yeah, I mean, well, he's asking what ones are good versus like what ones don't need them. So is there if there's none that pop up in your head, that's fine. I think Age of Wonders is a great example of a good one. If you don't have one that comes up.
I think Satisfactory is pretty good, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you're unlocking stuff gradually, so it's not overwhelming. You only have a couple things initially. And then, once you've gotten used to those things, you're now unlocking the next tier. So now, on top of what you already know very well, you can now build like one new thing.
Good point.
So it's kind of like building on top of the foundations. And yeah, that works really well. I think that's a good example, probably. Yeah, because, gradual.
Yeah, good point on that. Driver's tutorial was masochistic, Alejandra says. I don't know what that means. It could mean so many things.
Yeah.
It could mean... Ricardo says, Microsoft Flight Simulator. I absolutely agree with you. That is so weird. Microsoft Flight Simulator's tutorial was just brought up 3 or 4 days ago by people when we were talking about good tutorials, and I can't believe I forgot it. I think generally it's very good. There's still some missing stuff, but yeah, it's a good point. I'm glad Skyrim one is fun. They say the Skyrim one, Skyrim tutorial.
Maybe like the first mission while you're going to the town.
Is there a tutorial in Skyrim? I don't remember it.
I guess it's that first mission when you're like.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Damn. Sosig McMuffin says Undertale is a great tutorial. That was also mentioned, weirdly enough. Okay, so I guess there's some agreement there.
Okay.
I like Hogwarts and Fallout 3, B1G Duck, Big Duck. Gotcha.
Big Duck.
What's up, Anti-Sky? Thanks for coming in to stream games with Johnny too. I know you guys have been enjoying Anti-Sky. I always
good man.
Nothing. I'll tell you later. Because Anti-Sky's name, I read it as something else the first time we popped in, and it's like a political topic thing, and I was like, oh no. I saw it for a second, and I was like, oh, come fucking on. Seriously? And then I reread it and was like, oh, okay, it's not what I thought it was. I don't know why, but you know how your brain reads the half of a word that's not there sometimes? You're reading.
And projects the rest.
Yep, for sure. Moving on from there, we have other topics to talk about too. We got going back to the topics. Let's see here. By the way, Zaxby says hello. What's up, buddy? Let's see here. I wanted to talk about. It's in my notes here. So, the idea of games saying that they make changes due to what you do. So, the big discussion that we had was this. If you look at a cyberpunk style game and you look at any game that says you have some choice and that choice affects the game, how many layers of choice do you need for it to make for you to feel as if it paid off? So we'll say one step would be you kill a guy or don't kill a guy, your morality or wanted level goes up. That's one step, right? We'll say it's one step. We'll say two steps would be that goes up, plus you can't get a quest from somebody later. Maybe they know you've killed them. So that'd be your second step. Your third would be a larger ring from that. It wouldn't be just quests, maybe be hunted systems or something like that. Next up would be that not only can you not get the quests and those kind of things, but it adjusts your ending. And then you sort of go up from there. How many levels do you need in a I'm not talking about how you complete the quest either. This is always confused. Somebody's like, well, if I can hack or if I can fight, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the end result and the choices you make. How far do you need a choice to resonate for you to be done with it? To be like, okay, it's done as much as I personally need.
I think it needs to make sense. So if you have factions in a game and I'm a complete dick to one specific faction, you know, I refuse to do what they ask me. I kill their guys, right?
Right.
I want that to be consistent with how they communicate with me. So I want, like, when I go to talk to them, basically they're like, you know, they're threatening to kill me pretty much.
Right. Maybe not killing you, but there's that antagonistic device.
Exactly. Because what I've had sometimes that pulls me out of the experience is when I've really gone out of my way to be as much of a dick as I can to that faction, and they're still like, hey, good to see you. Here's a mission. Or, you know, like you were saying, I would love at least not get the missions or be shunned by them in some way. I think that's the main thing, is those things that pull me out of the experience when it doesn't make sense, you know?
Do you know what doesn't make sense? And it blows your mind when you realize it, but I don't hear people say it, and I'm not going to mention it in a review too much, but I will mention it in this podcast. How the fuck does an NPC know you did something wrong and figure out a way to raise the prices in their store just for you by 20%?
Special price for you.
What the fuck is going? You go into a game, you kill somebody or whatever, and nobody treats you poorly, but you go to the store and that guy somehow knows it's you, and only your prices in a fantasy game are up by 20%. You're like, what the fuck? Why? That's such an easy way out, man. It's such an easy way out, and I get it, but have the guy be a dick to me, man. Right? You know, like you were saying, have him be taken. Also, be like, hey, I heard you. You don't even have to write it. There's ways to get around the positive and negative verbalization, and it doesn't even have to call you by name. But I love the idea of somebody being like, yeah, you can come in, but we're watching you. That's one step, right? Totally fine with that. I don't need them to be like, you are the butcher of Bethlehem. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? Right? I don't need that. But be a little antagonistic or a little positive towards me. But the store shit, dude, it's fucking so dumb, because it doesn't make sense in any way, shape, or form. It's just not even a thing, man.
Yeah.
It's not even a real thing. It's so far removed from what you did even. You're like, I slaughtered 10 kids. These guys slightly don't like me. And for some reason, Brussels sprouts are 20 cents more. It's like, what the... That kind of stuff I feel devs do because they know it works. But they don't need to do that as much as they need to have it reflected in, like,
that is just
voice.
So gamified, isn't it?
Dude, it's so... And when you... It's so old. It's Zelda #1 level. And by the way, I'm not saying devs are lazy. That's completely stupid. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that return on investment for that development change makes total sense to them. What I'm saying is a lot of gamers are okay with a slightly more subtle, more nuanced, and less dramatically stupid adjustment now. That it's okay. We don't always need that. And Outlaws bailed on it too. Outlaws screwed the pooch because Outlaws did the one thing that everybody in the world will pick up on right away, which is that you absolutely immolate an entire family. You mulch them. You turn in basically temporary gravestones. Those guys are all dead. And then 2 minutes later, because you delivered an order of specialized hamburgers, they're like, all right, you're back on our list. You can
What's up, my G?
What's up?
Welcome back.
Yeah. Sid says, 449, again, Ruples. He says, racing games are my favorite genre, and would you agree there aren't great racing games nowadays in comparison to RPGs and shooters, which I also love? It's a good point, but let me explain to you why I don't think that's necessarily right. I think that we just talked about this too. A lot of genres don't get new entries where they stick. For example, fighting games are starting to fall to the wayside. You've got your Soul Calibur has gone away, Virtual Fighter has gone away. You have some ads in there, but they're definitely lean, and there's some issues there. Racing has had Assetto Corsa. Racing also had Project Cars. Now, Project Cars and Assetto Corsa both may not be at the top tier level, but I actually believe, in particular, Assetto Corsa, not Project Cars, that's pretty much done, has done a very good job finally getting to a point to where it can at least be talked about in racing games. And then you have sim versus arcade. So I would say that they may not appeal to you, but at least with racers, we get companies trying. And we don't get that so much with some other genres, is what I would say. And you're not a racing fan, right? So you don't really even...
I play some, but very casually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
More like the Forza, Need for Speed type games.
I think Forza Need for Speed really nail the not Need for Speed right now, but Forza in particular. Forza has 2 lines, which was really intelligent, and I hated the idea, man. I hated the idea. I fucking hated it when they were like, "Hey, look at Forza Horizon," and I was like, "This is the worst idea I've ever heard of. Nobody's going to want to play Forza Horizon. Like, why would you ever? Open world, you can race anywhere. What's that mean?" And it turned out to be phenomenal. So
yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So I would say we do have them. Yeah, that would be my answer. We for sure do.
I would say though we don't get a ton of like what would you say? Like silly driving games. You know how we talked in the past
Karts,
about
maybe?
Yeah, like karts or what was that one? Blur. There we go. It was killing me.
You mean sort of like goofy but good graphics arcade ones?
So Blur had like somewhat realistic graphics, but still had the Mario Kart stuff.
Yeah,
but pretty much like throwing a banana to the equivalent of that with. So that was cool. I like that. I would like to see more of those types of games. We don't really see a ton.
Yeah, I think it's hard, especially when you see them trying to come in. There's a bunch of cost. Models cost a bunch, because you're paying for the IP. You're paying those companies your licensing fee. And so some companies separate themselves and they make their fake cars, which what it is. It's like not called the Lamborghini. It's called like the Amberghini, to get slightly to the side of it. But I think for cars in particular, they've tried and they've done pretty well on those side ones, whether we like them or not. They're still there. Where I would say in particular fighting, I'm not talking about small games entering. I'm talking when you look at your big 3 or 4 big 3D games, we've definitely seen many drop out. For example, Soul Calibur in particular has dropped out, and so has Virtual Fighter. And even Sega has been like, oh, hey, we're going to make another Virtual Fighter, but we don't have any clue how to do it. And I think that that's a fair assessment of the fighting genre right now. Injustice succeeded because it's DC Comics. And it was a pretty big deal. It was a new thing. Comics are big, and they really expanded that. But even Mortal Kombat, man, Mortal Kombat's long in the fucking tooth, dude.
Oh, yeah.
My God, man. My God, man. Like how, I mean, holy shit. That is, it feels ancient. Shit. Feels like all of the structures and rigid gameplay are based in the Sega Genesis version. Like we need,
pretty much.
Love to see them go into the future, but I don't.
Well, they tried, right? They tried to do like hey, we're starting again. This is Mortal Kombat 1. Right? Isn't that what they called the recent one?
Yeah. They totally lied. They totally lied. Dude, they were like, yeah, it's going to be a whole new thing, blah blah blah. It is such bullshit. It is such hammered bullshit that you just are like, why did you even try to pretend it was? Why? You probably wasted money on the PR part more than you could have just saved it. I mean, they, as Dev Guy just said, they lied, and they did. They lied. That's why I was complaining a couple days ago about the lies we will accept from some companies, and then others will just be like, oh, how dare you? And you're like, dude, seriously? You got to start pointing it out everywhere. If you're going to point it out anywhere, you got to point it out everywhere. You got to, you can give some leeway because they've, over time, some delivery, but at some point, yeah, they just lied. Like, listen, it's enjoyable, but come on, they lied. Like, now that we look at it, yeah, they lied. Anti-Sky says, Johnny, you hanging in the ACG Discord after the stream?
Possibly, yeah, in the weekend for sure. I don't know if today.
Maybe. He's not going to tell you. You need to show up on your own, because my Discord's, you don't need Johnny. You can come into my, like, Anti-Sky's such a separatist. When he tells stories, he's like, hey, Johnny. Hey, he's like, hey, Johnny. He doesn't talk to the rest of us. It's been brought up multiple times. A lot of people don't like him. I'm just joking, by the way. I'm joking about all that. Oregon says they changed the lore, didn't they? A little bit. Yeah, man, they just, whatever. It is what it is. Let's see, what else do we got? I got so I turned down a, like, PR thing, like a what do you call it? Contract, like, you cover this thing for us. We'll give you the money and items. Dude, so I turned them down, right? I'm like, I am not interested. I got the item anyway.
Oh, what does that mean?
I have no clue. I have no clue. I'm not covering it. Do you know why I'm calling it the item? Because fuck that. Like, I'm not saying that out loud. I have no clue. I'm looking at it right now going like, I still don't know why I got the item. I'll tell you after the podcast, but I'm not giving them a free shout out during the podcast. But I'm like, dude, are you guys that hard up that you're just, the moment you find, because they asked me for my address and to put it into a database. And I was like, that part's fine, because they might want to, maybe they're sending me, I don't know, a news article. I don't even know why I gave it to them, but I did. And they were like, you want to cover this? I'm like, no, I don't like their products. There's really nothing of theirs that I want to cover in any way. I was very open. I was like, I do not like their stuff.
In any way,
shape, or form. I don't want to cover it. And then a week later, I got something that's not cheap. And I was like, the fuck? Let's see. What else do we got? Connectica? That's the game. Need more quirky racing games. Connectica. I don't know what that means. Connectica.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know what that is, man. Quirky racing games. When I said cart, by the way, this was brought up that people were saying there wasn't a lot of kart games like Nintendo, like Mario Kart. And they brought up that they thought it would do well on PC and other systems. And I'm still, jury's out on that for me. Do you think Mario Kart's really popular, right? It's popular on a Switch.
Yeah.
It's a Nintendo product.
Yeah, it's huge.
But I was trying to think if Mario Kart on another console in particular, not just the PC, but like if somebody said, here's Mario Kart on the Xbox, are there a bunch of people on the Xbox who do not have Switches that would get Mario? Like, do you feel Mario Kart's that? I don't know if it is, by the way.
It's a good question.
Arguing against it.
I think the people who are really into it already have a Switch and every other Nintendo,
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like, I don't get the impression. And they brought up something smart, which is what you and I've talked about, which is like, well, Sea of Thieves sold out on the PlayStation 5, basically, right? I mean, it did well, but I was like, well, that's a multiplayer giant open world game. You're talking about a game based on a character that is synonymous with another platform. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a Sea of Thieves open world non-specific. This is a specific one. What do you guys think in chat? Doom says, are you reviewing Starship Troopers? Dude, I thought Starship Troopers have been out for ages.
Me too.
Starship
Isn't
Troopers. I thought so.
Huh.
Did it not? Was it not 1.0? Was it another one of those early access diabolical things where they're like, hey, here's... Did you see that Satisfactory, or you told me Satisfactory went to 1.0, right?
Yeah. Yeah, after many years.
And that one, many years, but also it's a 1.0. Does it feel what? It's not like Shadows of a Doubt where it's called 1.0, but it's still 0.5.
No, it's full 1.0, and they have a ton of quality of life stuff they've added over time.
How much is that one too? How much does that game cost?
I believe it's around $40, but it's been a while since I've checked. Yeah, it's a solid game. It just don't expect any real action. You know, you will fight off some fauna and stuff.
It looked good graphically. I thought it looked great.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, graphics help, man. Looks matter. You know, the world's going to tell you it doesn't, and it's going to try to make you feel better, but looks do matter, man. They do. And like when you see a game like Satisfactory, right, is what it's called.
Yep.
Yeah. When you see a game like that and you see all, you know, the factory parts and you've seen it before, but it looked worse, you can't tell me that there isn't a higher chance that the new one that looks good, you know, especially if you haven't engaged with it, the prior one, when you're like, oh, I've seen this before, it looks pretty good, but graphically that looks rough. And then you see one where the graphics look good and you're just like, all right, well, this one, you know, I'm going to go over here. People are asking if we checked out Wayfinder. I don't know which one Wayfinder is.
No, that games. One kind of came and went. Wayfinder.
Let me look. Wayfinder.
Yeah.
Wayfinder on Steam. Ooh, those reviews are not good for Wayfinder.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Damn, that is pretty rough. Whew. Oh, early access? Yeah, nope, haven't checked it out, buddy. Did you like it? What you're playing? Did you enjoy it? It's just, man, those are some rough reviews, though.
Yeah.
God of War got some rough ones, too, and I saw a bunch of people saying, oh, it's only because of the sign-in. So I was like, okay, makes sense. And then I went and ran the mind map, you know, takes the data.
Where you can get the cloud, like
and it does all the data, and I was like,
words.
oh, it's not only that. Yeah, that game definitely shows Sony's got an uphill battle with the ports, even their premier titles.
That sucks really because the first God of War was a pretty good PC port.
Yeah, I think this one is probably pretty good, but it has the issues it does have.
Yeah.
Like, if you run into that issue, it's a pretty diabolical issue. It's sort of like the lesser, you know what I mean? It's an issue that causes you quite quickly to run to report it versus maybe some performance hedginess, which maybe you're not going to go to Steam to report.
You can put up with, like, you know,
That's a level, right? The level of complaint, right? It's like, it's not only how you experience it, but it's like, what's the fix? If there's no fix, you're going to get a review. You know, that person, you're getting that person's heading back to you. Like, if it doesn't work at all, if it works somewhat,
like if you think about it, if after a pretty short Google search, you have not found a workaround for the issue, like, you're getting a bad review.
You're getting a review. Yeah, it's pretty much,
and that's fair, to be honest.
That is fair, because if somebody's in the game and it's sort of hedgy, they're like, well, I'm not going to go to a different website and write the review. If they can't get into the game, right? If the game is such that they're not engaging with it, then what do you think they're going to do? They're probably going to go back and they're going to report that situation, or go to Reddit and report it, you know, one of those two places, or a forum. So yeah, it's I'm still planning on getting it at some point in the future. I'm still excited to play it. I think it'll be patched. I mean, just looking at the issues, they're certainly real. For some people, they're a real issue. Others are the sign-in, which is real, not real, whatever way you take it. I'm talking more than the technical ones. I think those will get patched, and you'll be able to, you know, jump in and have a good Ragnarok. Dude, the game's great. You know, Ragnarok is fucking awesome game.
Yeah, it's awesome. I I don't feel like there's anything I would get in the PC version that I didn't in the PS5. I thought PS5 version was great.
You mean performance and graphics and looks and gameplay? Absolutely. If when I said I'm going to return to it, which I think is what I said, I actually did not mean, sorry, I did not mean buy the PC version.
Ah, okay.
I meant I'm going to return to it to check where those patches are and stuff like that. If it comes back to playing it, I will not be buying it. I will most likely play the PlayStation 5 Pro or PlayStation 5
and I've double dipped
version.
in some games, you know, Horizon.
But that one doesn't probably need to be double dipped unless you just, you know, like, I don't feel like it does. I feel like that game was good, you know, enjoyable day one. Man, dude, yeah, God of War Ragnarok, God of War, those are still two that I'll remember for a long time as bringing me into a fiction that just didn't really interest me much. I'm not a huge fan of God of War, the original games. You know, I like them somewhat, but those two were just like,
I would agree. Dude, okay, so I had a thought, like, experiment to run by you.
Oh, shit.
I've been reading this book. It's a book series called The Bobbyverse. I've talked to you about, I think,
I've finished
in the past.
a couple. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think the first book is called We Are Bob, if anyone wants to look it up.
Yeah,
it's a pretty good, like, audible, you know, it has a good narration and everything. Yeah, it's a good experience. It has a lot of pop culture references and stuff. It's really fun. I highly recommend it. But the whole premise of it is that this guy, he's like a software engineer, and his brain gets like converted or digitalized into a von Neumann probe. For people who don't know in chat, that's simply like, imagine a small probe that has the ability to gather materials and print another version of itself. So, you know, this little thing starts as one, it goes out there, it farms some materials, it prints another version of itself, and now there are 2. And then, you know, there are 8, and then 16. And so you go and you're populating the galaxy with copies of your mind, in a way. That's like the premise of the book, right? But you do have to die in the first place for that to take place. So my question to you, dude, is if you could sign up for this program, right? It's Carrick 2.0, but you're going to be a digital version of your consciousness, but you're going to be able to inhabit these, you know, von Neumann probes. You're going to freaking populate the cosmos with copies of your consciousness. You can work with copies of yourself in huge projects. You can even have like mechanical bodies that you plug into, and then you can experience stuff, you know, like physically. And there's VR, there's all this type of stuff. You can build superstructures in the future. You know, sky's the limit, or like space is the limit, I guess. So would you sign up? You have to die. You have to, you know, end your current existence to start this new, possibly epic.
So it's almost like end your biological life to get uploaded to the digital life, and then that.
Yes,
no, I would not. I would never. I would never kill myself for something. Yeah.
Right.
I would never kill myself for something. I would if I was. I do believe people have absolutely fucking incredible rights to their own life. Like, I'm not right or left, but there's some things I think. And like when somebody, so for example, somebody's in pain, somebody has cancer, you bet your fucking bottom dollar that person has the right to spit their life out whatever way they want.
If they choose, if it makes sense for them.
Like, I will never, ever back down on that, just because some experiences and family members I've known, fuck you, for sure.
Yeah.
But I would never, if I was the way I am now, pretty healthy, I would not. No. No. If I was sick, then I would be worried that I would upload not the sickness, but let's say you had Alzheimer's and you don't know it, right? And you upload it to this cloud or whatever. Would that advance, right? Because if that would advance, then you'd have a infinity of the worst possible.
It would be like a snapshot of your mind as it is now. And perfect, you know, it wouldn't have any imperfections like that.
No.
No.
Not that, yeah, because, and I'd be worried that if I was 80, we all suffer, deterioration of some kind. You all suffer. And then
But
I'd be worried about that.
What you could do if you could work alongside endless other characters, in the scale of the universe.
But I would never kill myself to do that. There is absolutely nothing in the world that would cause me to kill myself. There would never, and I've been depressed, and I certainly understand. I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm literally saying for me, no, that because I would also have to choose an arbitrary limit of mental acuity where I like learning in my biological brain with all the difficulties we've talked about this. I sort of like the difficulty of learning something and messing up and going, fuck, I thought I had that. There's something that's fiery about that is a spirit thing that's my jam. Yeah, no, I would not. I love the idea of copying, though. I love that, but not voluntarily saying this and also, I mean, I have family members. If you ask me and all my family members were gone, probably still no, but there'd be more of a pull towards it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow. The fact that you have to end your existence as it is. And you wouldn't be connected to the new thing in any way. It will just be a copy. So.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. This happens, dude. So here's a question for you. Well, first of all, would you, on your own question, would you jump to this probe?
No. In the same way as I wouldn't, kill myself. If I could do it without killing myself, and if I could just sorry, by the way, if I trigger people, because I know, say that phrase is triggering. Oh, no,
go ahead. Dude, people, it's context of the podcast. Yeah. They're going to understand. Go ahead.
But, if I could do it just creating a copy and then I continue my own life.
Right.
I won't get to experience what that
But the other ones are.
But there's something about the idea of having a bunch of me out there trying to work together in cool projects and do cool stuff that I think that would be cool to know that that's happening,
So this is what gets me every time with a body clone, body double, alternative world TV show. Fringe, Altered Carbon's main story crux is this. And the idea that, let's say you have an alternative world. Whenever I see a show where, okay, we're going to turn the gate off. We're no longer, we've done our massive adventure. You're going to go to your side. We're going to go to ours. We're going to cut the gate off. Good luck. I always, just like the toys I used to tell you about, where I'd leave them outside and 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd wake up and be like, oh my God, G.I. Joe's outside. I got to go save him. I continue to think of people as alive. So I have watched Fringe so many times all the way through. And the moment they close the gate to the faux Livia, to the other side, I am constantly having this. Every new episode, I continually go, are they experiencing that? What are they doing? Because their world's different. And there's something exciting about that, but it's also weirdly annoying at times. I'll be like, dude, why am I wasting time on this? It's not even real, number one. Number two, the alternate world, it doesn't matter. It's not the main story you're following, but I just constantly think about that kind of stuff. And I would if it was a copy of me and I didn't die, I would consistently think, is my copy thinking the same thing? It's not me. How's Jeremy doing? That would kill me internally. Because I'd be like, if I think the way I think, and this is a perfect copy, then they're thinking the way I think, but they're thinking of the way they think. And at some point I'd be like, oh man. But on the other hand,
what's cool too in the book, dude, is that there's some iteration. So every time they replicate, there's a chance that the next one will be slightly different. Yeah. So it's Barrack who likes kayaking.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Who loves to watch mukbangs. Who's favorite thing in the world. He's traveling the galaxy and he's just got a mukbang going on at all times. Binging mukbangs. Yeah, I love the idea. I think the big thing is humans have to add the copy of a copy in because of faxes and the old way of doing copies. And now that we're at the digital era where a copy of a copy of a copy does not result in loss, as novelists, D&D DMs, storytellers, we still have to add that because to us, that is a part of life. The DNA to us, we know DNA does some of the same things, but it still has those alterations like a fax does. And whenever we tell this story, including those books, which I've read, and that's not the only one, there's been multiple ones that have sort of covered this, they always have to add in the copy of a copy because to a human, if you don't, it means nothing. Like it is not even a question, and the question doesn't even make sense if the copy of the copy is perfect, because at that point there's no story to tell, there's no growth, there's no.
It's interesting you mentioned that because in a way they sold it to me and they're talking past the sale, so I took it for granted that there would be some random changes, or there would be a chance that a copy would be different.
Right.
But really, there's no reason for that. That's purely like a biological thing, a result of the biological process. Digitally, there's really no chance that your copy. Imagine if you copied one of your videos to a hard drive, and there's a chance that the resulting copy isn't your exact video. Like.
And you know what's funnier?
What would that even mean?
It would mean a failure of the MP4. We talked about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Remember we were talking about the guy who just randomly decided to write a different version of MP4, so it writes every frame so it can crash and it doesn't fail. So on PC currently, if I make a copy, I don't get a garbled copy. That's a codec. That's a different thing. That's transcribing, or that's that's like rendering it. But if you make a copy and that copy fails and there's no fail state backup data, that file just doesn't work. You can get a text file that does, but we're talking about the complexity of a product that's being finished. Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. I think also with when you look at, somebody said this is like the Alters, and I really like the Alters. I've been able to preview. I got to play like 6 hours of that. But here's what the Alters does that once again is different. The Alters is not making a copy of you. It is going dimensionally through a quark and through all of this sci-fi pseudo-intellectual science to find you at a decision point. Did you get married? Yes, no. Did you move? Yes, no. And it is pulling the no from the alternate universe where you are
like
the yes.
Multiverse where you're getting a different
and it's great, by the way.
From another branch.
Fucking great, dude. It's great. The way they did it is great because then you can talk to them and their attitudes are different. And we know that, I think a lot of people try to pretend your entire attitude would be different if you drank a fucking Diet Pepsi and not a Coke, right? That's stupid. But what they do here is they're like, marriage isn't always positive, right? You think this person's going to grow up and be married and you find out they got divorced and beat. And you're like, okay, well, that's not what I thought. So in this game, you're grabbing these characters and all you know is your history and then where you pluck them from. But after you pluck them from that spot, then their history is over. Yep. You've grabbed them and put them in yours. So and that becomes a story point, because what do you tell them? If I look at their history and I know they got married and had children, and I grab them when they're 12, that person, if you tell that person that you did that, that person is going to murder you. Because they're in your universe where you're alone on a planet.
Yeah.
And you're going to die, possibly. That is what the magic of Alters is. It is a different... It is awesome in that you get to see it almost like Loki, maybe, or the God Kang or something. Or I don't think Thanos could see the future or anything, right? He could just
no, I don't think so.
Had it right. And dude, it's awesome. That's why I think the Alters you're gonna have some jackass who's talking about the gameplay being bad and stuff like that, and it's not. But it's not perfect or anything. It's a little janky. But I could see if it nails those parts. The storytelling part is going to be just like Life is Strange, where you're making these changes going, God damn it, I'm the only one who can carry the burden. Because if I tell somebody about the burden, it will adjust them here based on something that isn't even real anymore. But you're also telling them that everything good, let's say you say you die of cancer at 49, I'm saving you at 37. It doesn't mean that person is going to be instantly happy if they were married at 38 and had 10 years of good marriage. That is a stupid, shallow thought humans have. We think we're saving things. You do it, and you're like, fuck. That didn't work out. That's why I can't wait.
Yeah.
I cannot wait.
Yeah, knowing about something that will happen, it will screw with you.
Yeah,
in
it's
every
gonna.
possible
It's
way.
good. And graphically, that game looks so sexy, dude. That game, it's got this fucking Guardians of the Galaxy / Unreal Engine / I don't know what the faces look like. They're pretty detailed. I don't know how to describe it, but it's got a what's the game Fallout Tactics where you can see the buildings. It's got that.
So or like XCOM.
Or like
too,
XCOM.
where you could zoom out and see the.
And you zoom out and you see this huge fucking like all these things you built, and you have to fix things, and then you have to tell. So, for example, you even cook for the other people, and the other people may not like the food. So in my history, I was known to sit down with my mother and cook. In their history, they sat with their father, I believe, and cooked, or maybe they didn't at all. So I tried to cook thinking they were going to like it. And they're like, dude, what are you doing? I don't even like this, because they didn't have the history of sitting down with their mom eating that. They had a different one. Then another one did and hated me. But then when I cooked that, was like, oh, this reminds me of, dude, it's going to mess with people. I don't know. It depends on how much you care about others and your empathy. I admit I don't have a lot, but I cared enough in this. And I think that that's what's going to be awesome about the Altars. It probably won't change. It probably won't capture a lot of attention as a commercial product just because it's a smaller game and stuff like that. But story-wise...
a bit more niche, but very cool.
Story-wise, I have this feeling I'm going to hear a lot of you guys in chat going, dude, what about this? Like, what about this moment and this clone, like this altar? What did you think of that? Can you believe we did this to that person and stuff? And I think that's fucking awesome. Sorry, chat, we went off on that. Jesus, I apologize. They're talking about mukbangs. Dev guy says I don't want to meet the likes of a mukbang version of myself.
Yeah, somewhere out there in the multiverse, Carrick, there's a branch of the multiverse where you are a mukbang enjoyer.
No, there's not. I'm just joking. I don't see how it's possible, but yeah, there is. Oregon Fresh.
The probability is low.
I want to read some Oregon Fresh said. He says, I need to get back to the Discord. The hearing is starting to slightly come back. So I thought he was joking, and then I remembered a year ago, maybe 9 months ago, he had mentioned he had something wrong with his hearing in one ear, so he can't go into Discord and talk. You can still type in Discord. I just want to say, you didn't lose your typing. You don't lose your fingers, but I can't remember what it was. But yeah, no, I got you, buddy.
Sorry, man, that sucks.
Yeah, yeah, dude, I love those kind of games. I'm excited for Life is Strange. I think, you know, we'll have to see how it is. Dude, this early access shit that they're doing though.
Yeah, I don't. What do we gain with the for a game like that? What do we gain with the early access? Right.
I don't even know. I don't even know what they're thinking. 2 weeks.
What would you tweak? Like, because if it's a roguelite, there's all, balance changes you can make based on feedback that people are playing. But for a game like that, like,
I mean, 2 weeks for 2 chapters, people are going to just, they're going to speed sex through those 2 chapters, right? Nobody's going to be like, I want to pace myself. You're going to do the 2 chapters, and for 2 solid weeks, well, okay. Let's say it takes you a day a chapter. For 12 days, you are going to be ruining the fact that you paid early for it. Like, what is it? The 3-day thing I don't like, but I understand it. I do, understand it, and I can put it, I can be like, 3 days is just enough to make you care, not enough to make you rue it and just be mad you're not getting it. Like, mad. With 2 weeks... I don't think anybody's going to be mad they're not getting it. I think they're going to be mad they get it. If that makes sense. Like, I feel there's going to be more people who, like, get the early access who get mad about it. Who are like, I want it, but I'm mad I had to do it. Some people were saying they were worried about spoilers, which I I understand.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, it's going to be... Oh, by the way, Steamhearted just said that exact thing. I hope nobody spoils it online. And you know it's going to happen. It will absolutely happen. Gohan says maybe Oregon Fresh also has glaucoma. That's a poor... That dude got the shit kicked out of him by fate, if so.
But, yeah.
Eastsea says, with a live service, they need to have so much content and things to aim for at launch, and very few have done that. Yeah, so that's the big thing about a game coming out right now. Imagine going against an MMO, Johnny. Imagine going against a small MMO, and it's got 1 year. That means 1 year of extra content that a new game has to go against. How is that
quality of life features, iteration,
possible? Right?
Yeah, it's so hard.
Dude, I would never want to work on a game that was going against an MMO. It doesn't matter. I don't care if it's well, Star Wars is already out. Let's say Star Trek isn't an MMO. Well, it's got an MMO, but it's not really, it's not really at that level. Lord of the Rings, I guess you could say. But imagine you had the biggest IP in the world, whatever that currently is. I would still not want to work for him. No way. No absolutely. Way. I mean, how would you, dude, if somebody said, what do we do to keep people interested for a couple weeks so that they keep playing so that we can do more? Here's what's going to happen. They're going to keep the content out that was already there. They're going to do the one thing that gamers think is done all the time that is actually rarely done, which is hold content back. Because you hear that a lot, and it's really, and I've talked to developers about it behind the scenes, people who've left the industry, no reason to lie, seen it a couple times. There's very few games that truly do that on purpose, where they're like, we know exactly what we're doing. It's already done. It's just a package waiting to come later.
Yeah.
Dude, that'd be rough. Man, that'd be rough. What do you even do? How would you make how would you, do you have time? Because I don't want to hold you forever.
Yeah, I got a bit of time.
How would you make an MMO? How would you make an MMO sing day one, right now? You can do content, but you can also do a feature. How would you make an MMO fight against other MMOs right now? What's a feature?
I think you would need a very original premise. It could be based on an IP that people love. That could work, right? You get interest just based on that. And then just have a really solid roadmap. That's what I would do. I would try to have a foundation of what the game is and be very transparent that, it doesn't have everything.
Sorry. What I'm saying is, what if I gave you the money to do one feature? My apologies. I'm saying you can pick the best IP in the world as well. But I'm saying, is there a feature? Like, I'm asking you, create a feature for an MMO that you think hasn't been done before or what have you. And if you don't have one, that's also fine. But do you see what I'm saying? I'm saying, how do you stick the landing on a brand new MMO that just nobody's done before? Is there something that you think?
I think that something about the gameplay that's unique. So, we talk about tab selecting MMOs.
Yeah.
They play pretty similarly, right? A lot of them. Something different would be very interesting. So, Black Desert did something a bit different. I know that trying to remember. Yeah, anyway, we've had a few that have done more action-based MMOs that have been different. I think that would be a good way to approach it. It's like, well, our foundation is entirely different. We have a gameplay thing that's unique.
Do you know how I'd do it, man? This is the only way I can see it working. You could do it one of two ways, magic or sci-fi. I'm going to choose sci-fi. I would have an alternate world be in the hacking game, so that a person who is playing it played it like Cyberpunk normally, or played it like whatever normally. It's a futuristic world, so that means tech, Cyberpunk, all of the stuff you would expect. But the hacking game is actually like Tron, where you're inside of a world. You would almost have an alternate world with its own stuff going on. Yeah. And you could do it in fantasy, where there was a fantasy realm. We've seen that attempted, and it hasn't necessarily caught on with fantasy, but I believe that sci-fi is the one place that is not represented in MMOs. It is not.
That's cool.
Anarchy Online, there you go. There's one from 25 fucking years ago. But you don't see a lot of MMOs. So if I was able to hack, and that hack was taking place almost in a freeze-framed world, and I was in this whatever Tron-like world and doing stuff to where it felt real, tangible, that I was doing things in this other place that was causing effects out here, For example, you know, these fiction that's out called Lit RPG, which is where it's like a character is a real person who realizes they're going into a D&D game and they have stats and everything. You can almost do that with these where you say, maybe real time is happening and you just have two worlds. You have the outside and then you have this other cyberpunk thing with its own stuff, its own bad guys, its own whatever. And when you come out, all of what you've done is somehow adjusted your character outside as well.
Yeah.
You would, but I mean, and by the way,
that would be cool, man.
Money's no object is what I'm saying. Like that would be a feature that might cost.
Yeah, because it's almost two games in one in a way.
Yeah.
But that's a cool idea, man.
Dude, it's fucking hard, man. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's hard. Ref says the Secret World had me with its setting and theme. Absolutely. Secret World by far top 3 of all time. I did want to say I laughed out loud while Johnny was talking because of one thing. The Deagle said, just make a wildly misleading trailer. And I fucking, like, I get it. That is funny, actually. Also, this is cool. Thomas says, I would build on the Nemesis system and try to make an MMO and have that work in PvP versus PvE. And I got to say, that's a really good idea. If you were able to somehow, it's almost like what Johnny and I were talking about earlier with like making the world adjust because you killed everybody, and instead of them raising 20 cents on the dollar for a fucking store, somehow they did that. That'd be good. That'd be fun. What else do we got before we wrap it up?
I think that's it.
Everybody who's watching,
we've been yapping for 4 hours.
Oh, it is 3 hours and 20. I thought it was 2 hours and 20. That's why I asked
good
you.
Stuff. Yeah.
Everybody who's watching, if you can, when this is over, I would love for you to rate us on iTunes and Spotify. It does help. You know, I tell you, it does help, and I actually mean it. Those things actually assist greatly when we get wrapped up. Also, if you leave a comment. Now, when I ask this, usually 10 people leave a comment, and those 10 people are awesome. The other 150 of you right now, dickheads. So today,
you know what?
Don't be a dickhead.
Leave your favorite emoji if you don't have.
Leave your favorite emoji.
Say.
Yeah, leave your favorite emoji, or leave a idea for an MMO, or any of the questions we've asked. We do read them, and I do use them for the next podcast. That'll be it for us. I hope you guys all have an awesome week. If you get a chance, check out the Patreon. If you don't get a chance, that's also fine. You are a piece of shit person. Just joking. Have a good one, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Peace out.